PMITV audiobook.
If it's something I can handle, then it's not fear. That's what I think. I exhale a sigh as I stare at the kite soon. There's no sense of despair like I felt from Dine, and no pressure of power like I felt from the Oni. I clench my trembling hands and forcibly stop the shaking. I deliberately place the kite soon, which I feel I shouldn't look at, in the center of my vision and take another deep breath. Even after doing this, I couldn't pinpoint the cause of the fear. The fact that I couldn't pinpoint it was a big clue. When I think about it, it's nothing out of the ordinary. This is magic. I activate my fighting spirit. The light sphere has disappeared, but the kite soon itself, still smoldering, serves as a light source. In the heightened senses activated by my fighting spirit, that's enough. The trembling stops as soon as the light sphere disappears. I feel something crackling and bursting a little away from my body. It's evidence that magic is being used. In fact, I no longer feel even a trace of fear towards the kite soon. If it's a magician, it's a scary enemy, I guess. A sigh of relief escapes me. From my perspective, covered in fighting spirit, it's just a large fox. It's troublesome because of its strength, though. The fox crouches and launches a high-speed tackle. The power is enough to dent and break through thick metal walls. But apart from the power, it's not much. I turn and slam my fist into its head in sync with its movement. It's fast, but I can react to this level of speed without any problem. Gah! The fox lets out a short scream and collides with the wall. Dust rises again from the impact. I kick the fox's neck, which is trembling from the shock, and snap it. When the spasms of its limbs stop, the fox is already dead. I examine the fox's corpse while considering the magic I just experienced. Mental interference, something like that exists, huh? A type of magic that isn't physical and is used specifically on living beings. This fox was equipped with such a thing. It's clearly for competing with other living beings. It has maintained its strength until now with this power. No, it could also be to avoid unnecessary conflicts. A frightened animal will first try to flee, and only after giving up on fleeing will it prepare to fight. It's possible that it, whether it's a he or not, was trying to encourage my escape. If that's the case, I did a bad thing. But, considering that it didn't try to hide before I attacked, it seems different. In the end, I don't know why the fox obtained this magic. For fleeing or for fighting. I'll just remember that it was a scary monster. The metal wall is broken and bent, spreading out like a peeled banana peel. Through the hole the fox created, I can enter the inner room. The inside is dusty and cluttered. There are fragments of what look like glass laboratory equipment scattered around. The monsters must have used this place as a den many times. Among the debris, there are bones of wild animals. Magic tools can sometimes be in a random box or on a table. If you find a lot, don't take them all. Leave some for the next group. I recall Rishid's words as I look around the room. There's a table in the center. This is where the laboratory equipment was probably placed. I remember the scene from a school science lab. There should be shelves along the walls. Sure enough, the remains of a shattered shelf are piled up against the wall. I can see what look like glass bottles, so it might have been a chemical shelf. So, there might be something around here. I extend my magic to search for hollow spaces in the walls. It's hard to tell because it's covered with something like stone, but it wouldn't be strange if there were built-in shelves here. I pray they haven't been destroyed and start searching. And I find it easily. It looks like just a slight indentation on the stone, but it's probably a handle. Using magic, I cut the stone so the drawer can function properly. With a light snap, it opens without any problem. Inside the drawer, there are several glass orbs. Each is about the size of a ping-pong ball and feels heavy when I pick one up. It's cloudy with dust, but it easily becomes a clear sphere when wiped. This must be a magic tool. That's what I feel. Magic tools work when infused with fighting spirit. The effects are a surprise. I don't understand why a magic tool works with fighting spirit, but I guess that's how it is. I infuse the sphere with fighting spirit. Instantly, a worm-like object inside starts to glow, and soon the entire sphere lights up. Whoa! I can't help but shout at the sphere glowing like it's red hot. It's not blinding, but the warm light makes my hand feel warm too. No, it's not just my imagination. It's actually getting warm. The warmth in the palm of my hand, in a size that fits, and the light, though not bright enough to be a lamp. So, this is a hand warmer, maybe. The warmth in my hand feels somehow nostalgic. The mission is accomplished. There's no need to go deeper, and I have no intention of doing so. I leave the laboratory and start walking towards the outside. The path is now safe as long as no new monsters enter. I avoid traps and move smoothly. Stepping out of the ruins, I feel the blinding sunlight. I squint. Looking at my clothes, they are dirty and covered in dust. The exploration is over. Before selling the magic tools, I should tidy up my clothes. Looking at the sparkling dust, I think to myself. After returning to my dwelling and changing into clean clothes, I noticed the dirt that had clung to my hair. Looking at myself, I smiled wryly. I've become so pampered. When I lived in the forest, a quick wash in the river in the morning was enough. While this feeling is still fresh, I might as well buy some new clothes. A robe in the color of a raven's wet feathers, perhaps. I can probably find something like that if I look. I'm aware that I'm usually indifferent about clothes, so I probably wouldn't buy anything if I didn't feel like this now. But first, I need to exchange some items for money. I need to sell some magical artifacts. When I stood in front of the counter, the receptionist merely bowed to greet me. Her attitude wasn't dismissive, but it was hard to say that I was welcomed. In fact, she hadn't said a word yet. Please exchange this for money. I placed the glass pocket watch on the counter of the Exploration Guild. After I said that, I realized it sounded no different from a transaction with a rock merchant. I just changed the place where I came to sell things. I smiled a little, and the receptionist looked at me with a puzzled expression. Is something the matter? No, nothing's wrong. Even as I tried to explain, her gaze didn't change. May I ask what this is? Without touching it, the receptionist looked at the pocket watch. Her cold eyes gazed down at it as if it were an uninteresting toy. However, her expression soon changed. It's a magical artifact, found in a ruin. With this, I can earn more, right? Yes, indeed. As I finished speaking, the receptionist's face, which had been momentarily puzzled, broke into a smile. It was a typical business smile, but it was a stark contrast to her cold eyes from before, and her bright smile was somewhat overwhelming. Don't forget to use the code phrase "earn more" when you exchange items. Without it, it's just a regular sale. There was no point in doubting it now, but Rishit's information was correct. Indeed, the receptionist was acting like a completely different person compared to before. May I confirm, where did you get the location of this ruin? From a senior at this exploration guild. Do I need to give their name? No, that's fine. Now, are you familiar with the effects of this magical artifact? It seems to emit heat and light, like a pocket watch. It's not bright enough to be a light source, but it provides some warmth. She gave a short reply and slowly picked up the glass pocket watch. After examining it against the light, she nodded slightly and rang a small bell at her feet. Soon, a man who looked like a staff member walked over from the back. Please check this magical artifact. It's being tested and emits heat and light. Understood. The man took the glass pocket watch, bowed to me, and disappeared into the back. The appraisal of the amount is being done now. In the meantime, I'll proceed with the full registration. Full registration. Yes. Since you know the code phrase, you must be aware that things will change from now on. This is the procedure for that. It will take some time, but it's necessary, so please bear with us. As she spoke, she bowed with a full smile. This was the purpose of my visit. I had no intention of refusing. May I have your guild registration card, please? The receptionist placed a leather tray-like object on the counter. I was supposed to place my card on it. Is this okay? Yes, thank you. As she said this, she took the lizard badge and went under the counter. She started doing something with a clacking sound. After less than a minute, she seemed to have finished. She looked up at me. Then, she placed a metal dish with a small indentation and a needle on the tray. I'm sorry, but I need you to drop some blood on this. 1 drop is enough, please. Blood. Even when I asked if I had heard correctly, she replied cheerfully. Yes. We need the scent of Mr. Crow for communication when there are named requests. This is the procedure for that. I didn't understand, but if it was necessary, there was no choice. I hesitated to hurt myself, but there was no other way. I silently disinfected the needle with magic, cast a pain relief spell, and pricked my fingertip. There was no pain, but a slightly slimy sensation ran through my finger. Then, drops of blood began to fall. I didn't want to waste it, so I let a bit more than necessary fall into the dish. Thank you. I wiped the needle with my finger and returned it to the dish. I immediately healed my finger. I'm not used to my own blood. Thank you. She took it respectfully and placed the dish under the counter, then started working on it again. Soon, the process was complete. The badge was placed on the leather tray. Here you go. The registration card update is complete. It looks a bit different, but you can use it as you did before. Thank you. I took it and examined the badge closely. I couldn't see any significant changes, but where had it changed? I hadn't really looked at my previous badge much, so it was natural that I didn't notice. The color has changed. Looking at it as she said, I noticed that the color had indeed become darker towards the tail. And I noticed one big difference. There's an eye in it. The eye, which was just a depression before, now had a reddish-black color, like a tiny crystal. Could it be? Yes. It's the processed blood you provided. It won't come off unless you try to remove it, but if it does, please come to the guild as soon as possible to have it reattached. Of course, it's not the only way to identify you, but it's a significant marker for Mr. Crow. I see. By the way, how will you contact me? The badge would be used as a marker for some kind of communication. I remembered that Nixki and Rishid also received named requests, but I didn't know how they were contacted. We use birds trained by the guild. We'll train them using the blood you provided, so in Mr. Crow's case, the actual operation will start a bit later. Like homing pigeons, perhaps. But if I'm in a dangerous place, they might not reach me. Leaving it to birds meant there was a possibility of accidents. I remembered that in my previous life, the use of homing pigeons had issues with large birds attacking them or them getting lost. What kind of countermeasures do they have? I couldn't think of much besides releasing a large number of them. Rest assured, that's part of the training. The receptionist smiled brightly, and for some reason, I didn't feel like arguing. Lastly, would it be alright if I could get some information to help mediate your requests? What do you mean? Please let me know about your strengths, weaknesses, skills you want to utilize, and any hopes you have for the requests. Of course, it's not mandatory, but if you do, we can provide more tailored opportunities. The receptionist prepares paper and writing tools while waiting for my response. This is completely different from the indifference shown when I first registered. This must be what it means to advance within the guild. However, what strengths do I have? I can use magic and ki. The conditions I heard from Rishit are met, but I can't think of any other skills. How much knowledge about flora, fauna, and the human body is required to be recognized as a skill? Moreover, my knowledge of the human body and science seems quite unique in this world. I'm not sure if it will be recognized, and I hesitate to even mention it. I can handle magic and control ki. Since I haven't confirmed the existence of anyone else who can do this, I think it could be a significant advantage. However, the fact that I haven't confirmed anyone else is itself a problem. I can easily demonstrate it, but I'm not sure if I'll be given the opportunity. Besides, explaining it would be a hassle. For now, I'll just mention either magic or ki, which I've used multiple times in front of Rishid. I'll emphasize that I can use ki and mention that I have survival experience. That should be enough. After thinking for a moment, I look up and answer the receptionist. I can use ki. Also, I'm used to outdoor living, so I can stay in the holy territory for long periods. In that case, you might get more exploration requests. Is that all right? If I get more exploration requests, it means I'll get fewer interpersonal requests like those for Rishit or Nixki. That's what I want. Yes, that's fine. For material collection, if you tell me the location and characteristics of the materials, I can go. I'm also okay with extermination requests to some extent. Understood. However, at first, we assign more requests to measure your abilities and suitability, so please understand that. I'll do my best. I respond firmly. The receptionist nods with a smile. Then, Mr. Crow, this completes your registration with the Exploration Guild. I sincerely wish you success. With that, the receptionist bows deeply again. Registration is complete, but... you're just in time. The receptionist turns around as if noticing something. Following her gaze, I see the man from earlier walking over with a tray. The appraisal is complete, so I've brought the payment. Here are 5 silver coins. Please check them. I count the coins as instructed and put them in my bag. Yes, that's fine. I still don't understand the value of things, but this seems to be the going rate for magical items. If I could bring back 5 of those warmers, I could support a family for a month comfortably. Thinking about it that way, it seems reasonable. Well, now the secret promotion test is complete. According to other bits of information I've gathered, the cut taken from the rewards on the bulletin board will be slightly reduced, making them a bit more profitable. While the stone shop still offers more efficient options, many more requests are now worth taking, which has alleviated my dissatisfaction. The reward part, 1 more coin added to what's written, that means. Looking at the bulletin board I complained about yesterday, I see a different landscape. Hin grass is 1/2 copper coin per plant. If that's the case, I can now get 1 copper coin for it. It's cheaper than the stone shop, but the treatment is better. I need to find requests with reasonable rewards that don't feel cheaper than the stone shop. However, it's hard to choose because there are so many options. Extermination requests for monster materials often take a lot of time. I know this from experience. I've wandered in the forest for days looking for a specific monster, only to find that it didn't have the desired item inside. So, while I can take on extermination requests, I don't feel very motivated to do so. Then, maybe material collection. But because I've always followed Gustav's instructions, I can't judge which materials to collect. I know many locations, but which one is the most time efficient? The calculations are tedious. However, from now on, I have to choose these things myself. I'm on my own. Thinking about it, I feel like I need to choose something here. Even if it's just material collection, I should try a different type of request. Avoiding anything that involves targeting monsters. What else is there? I'll take this one. After some deliberation, I pick up a request to clean an abandoned fort in the mountains. I peel the paper from the board and take it to the reception counter. As expected, a different receptionist is sitting there. Sure. This is the reclamation of the fort. I understand, but... The receptionist hesitates. Are you going alone? Normally, this request is meant to be done in a group. Sorry, but I'm going alone. Can I take it? No, that's not a condition. After checking my registration card, she nods quietly. My apologies. There's no problem. This request has no deadline, but if it takes too long, it might be considered a failure, so please be careful. I'm fine. I've seen it before, and I think it will take just one day. Understood. Please do your best. That concludes the registration. It was my first time, but it went smoothly, and I feel a bit relieved. Leaving the guild, I start walking. I could head to the fort now, but I should prepare my equipment first. Specifically, I want to buy new clothes. If I don't go now while I'm in the mood to avoid dust, I won't buy them. She said there's no deadline. I can go to the fort tomorrow. By the way, where is the clothing shop? I've only ever bought clothes from the stone shop. The impression is so faint that I don't even know where it is in town. There is one place I remember, but it's a shop where you buy fabric and have dresses made. You can buy clothes there, but they're not suitable for protecting the body in the outdoors. Maybe a shop like an armory. Where is it? If it's a shop that deals with weapons, it might be in the 5th Street area, where the craftsmen gather. I don't have any good memories there, but it's worth looking around. If I find one on the way, I can go in. Even though the town only brings up bad memories, I walk without hesitation. I hope nothing bad happens today. I hesitated between writing a casual note or a main chapter, but since no crows appear, I'll go with a casual note. 2/5 since it was heavily involved in the main plot, I removed the casual note label from the title. He gnawed noisily at the carcass of his prey. As usual, it had been a simple task today. When he bit into the enemy, paralyzed by fear, as weak as a newborn, it was already nothing more than food to him. Satiated, he moved to hunt another, as he always did. It could be a rabbit or a bird, anything that could fill his belly would do. In the deep forest, where the green scent filled the air, he searched for the scent of prey. Any prey would do. Whether strong or weak, they were all equally weak to him, and he believed that only his partner stood on equal footing with him. Any prey would do, but the weaker, the better. The scent of blood meant a struggle was taking place, with the weak being wounded and the strong wounding them. Both would equally become his food. The fox believed this without doubt. A scent caught his attention. The fresh scent of blood. The iron-like aroma tickled his nostrils, and the faint screams he heard were a spice that helped him imagine the taste. This scent and the screams suggested that a dog was being attacked by a raptor. The more food, the better. He dashed off. Silently, like the wind, he moved between the trees. It was time to hunt for his partner. The small prey was screaming. The fox, seeing this, felt a bit dissatisfied. This small dog wouldn't be enough to satisfy him and his partner. But his dissatisfaction was soon dispelled. Seeing the size of the raptor attacking, he changed his mind. The spread wings were larger than a large dog, and even larger than the fox, suggesting a good meal. The fox, lacking the facial muscles to smile, was indeed smirking. The stray dog was fighting desperately. He had taken many lives, but accepting his own life being taken was not something he could do easily. When the raptor suddenly attacked, he resisted with all his might. The sharp beak of the bird descending from the sky had already gouged his side. He couldn't stop moving. If he did, he would surely be impaled in the next instant, becoming a corpse, just like the many he had seen. He didn't want that. The stray dog, who had lived by instinct without reason, was still filled with the instinct to avoid death. The stray dog ran around. Of course, he also fought back, trying to bite the raptor that was diving at him. But his teeth couldn't reach. The sound of his teeth clicking on air echoed through the forest. The raptor flying in the sky was beyond their reach. Finally, the raptor's attack on the stray dog reached its mark. At that moment, the stray dog realized he was about to die. Instinctively, he closed his eyes, bracing for the impending impact. Reflexively, his body stopped moving. But the moment never came. The fox was waiting. He had no effective attack against the raptor flying high in the sky. He had been watching the stray dog, waiting for a more certain moment. His target was the moment the raptor lowered its altitude to attack the stray dog. He would strike the raptor at the moment it was about to finish off the stray dog. And finally, that moment arrived. He pounced at the exact moment the raptor, diving at breakneck speed, was about to strike. It was his first time, but it went well. Key. The bird, caught in the fox's jaws, let out a sharp scream. It didn't understand what had happened. Just as it was about to finish off the dog, an abnormal situation occurred. It realized this. Trying to escape the abnormal situation, it flapped its wings in resistance. But the fox wouldn't allow it. He bared his teeth and tore into the grey body. Blood filled his mouth, staining the corners. Soon, the resistance stopped. The body would soon cool, turning from prey to food. He felt no emotion during this routine task. He didn't chew. This was a gift for his partner. He only took life, a skill the fox had learned. He was a wise beast. The stray dog cautiously opened his eyes. The expected impact never came, and the presence had increased and then decreased. What had happened? Had he been saved? Thinking this, the stray dog looked at the scene before him and felt death again. The overwhelming terror he felt from the fox that had appeared was something he had never experienced before. Finally, even the stray dog's instincts submitted. He resigned himself to death. And the fox, who saw the now defenseless prey, would not let it go. The fox, having secured his second meal of the day, felt full for the first time in a while. He couldn't eat another bite. He would probably feel sleepy soon. Before that, he needed to give his partner the gift. The happy fox carried the raptor to the den at a brisk pace. He entered the usual burrow. This den, which he had found a while ago, was dark and dusty. But it was very comfortable. Occasionally, something sharp poked out from the walls, but nothing ever happened because of it. In fact, it seemed to keep other weaklings away. Encountering weaklings when he didn't need food was just a nuisance. That's why they liked this burrow so much. But today was different. When he left earlier, there was no such smell. The fox had once encountered a forest fire. The sight of weaklings being burned to death in the forest came to mind. The smell was the same. It was strange. In addition to the smell of burning, there was also the smell of blood. It was odd. Somehow, a weakling must have entered their burrow and his partner must have hunted it. Satisfied with this thought, the fox believed they were the strongest. He had never met anything stronger than himself. He didn't understand what was happening. A burned carcass lay there, smelling just like the weaklings from the forest fire. But it was strange. The form was familiar. Was this the form of his partner, the only one he considered his equal? It was a corpse. What had happened? He was puzzled and called out to his partner, trying to wake him up. His unresponsive partner. What was wrong? Usually, he would greet him with a joyful cry when he brought food. Would shaking his body wake him up? When he tried to flip him over with his nose, he only felt a squishy sensation. The cold sensation made him realize his partner was dead. His partner, with whom he had grown up, hunting prey in turns, and living together, was dead. He had become food. The fox felt a pain. He didn't have the rationality to understand that this was sorrow, but he understood that this feeling was unpleasant. A howl echoed through the ruins. The sound of sorrow swept through the darkness. He howled until his voice was hoarse. Then, to avoid being overwhelmed by the sorrow, his instincts kicked in. Anger began to rise. The fox didn't understand this boiling emotion, but by letting himself be carried away by it, the previous discomfort would lessen. The smell of blood and burned kin. Mixed with these scents was a different one. The smell of humans, which he had tasted a few times. The moment he identified this smell, his anger intensified, swirling in his chest. This is my first time walking down Fifth Avenue in a long time. The sights before my eyes are not particularly new, but the scene of this town, where craftsmen swing their hammers with all their might and their spirited calls echo, is different from other towns. Smoke rises from various places, probably from the furnaces, and the upper parts of the chimneys are blackened with soot. Come to think of it, there was a chimney cleaning request from the Exploration Guild. It would be better to hire a specialist for such a job, so it's a bit odd that they would request it from the Exploration Guild. There must be some reason. Perhaps it would be good to investigate that next time. Looking around, there are indeed many workshops. I think it would be convenient to have a retail store nearby to save on transportation costs. However, upon closer inspection, the workshops I see are all metalworking shops, not clothing stores. It was only then that I realized my mistake. Why am I looking for clothes in the craftsman's district? Well, it's true that there might be some clothing businesses here since many craftsmen gather, but I should have known better. As far as I can see, there are no clothing stores. I couldn't help but smile wryly. I had relied so much on Mr. Gustav that I didn't even know where to buy them. I need to remember this. After all, my living area has expanded to cover the entire town. As I was thinking this, I was lucky. There was a retail store. And it had armor. If there's armor, there should be protective gear. If not, I'll buy armor. With a self-deprecating thought, I entered the store. Welcome. A fairly energetic greeting from the shopkeeper welcomed me. His muscular arms and sunburned skin suggested that he probably makes the products himself. Looking around, various weapons were hung on the walls. In a corner, weapon handles were casually thrown into a box. Those are probably also for sale. And, as expected, there was a corner with armor, innerwear, and shields. This is what I'm looking for. First, I need to check if they have the items I'm looking for. Hello. I'm a new explorer. Do you have any armor that I can wear? Ah, a new explorer, huh? How refreshing. We do have some. If we don't, I can adjust them, so pick the one you like. He pointed to the armor shelves. Then, as if just realizing something, he spoke up. Ah, by the way, what kind of weapon are you looking for? Explorers usually buy short swords, or big spears and hammers for dealing with large enemies. The type of weapon can affect what you wear. I'm a magician, so do you have something like a long, sleeved cloak? While indirectly saying I don't use weapons, I asked, and the shopkeeper made a somewhat puzzled expression. A magician, huh? A rare customer. But coming to a store run by a blacksmith and asking for clothes is quite bold. Sorry. I knew I was probably wrong. I just asked. As I was about to correct myself, the shopkeeper sighed and laughed. Well, we do have something. But it's meant to be worn over armor. Really. If I can wear it, that's fine. I know it's not ideal, but... yeah, a sleeved cloak. It should be around here. He opened one of the drawers on the armor shelf, which was filled with folded cloaks. This one is sleeveless, and this one is too short. Ah, here it is. He pulled out a stack. There were various colored robes, though a bit faded. Ah, the black one. Is this it? He pulled out a black robe as I had hoped. It was a bit big for me, but it would fit perfectly soon. I folded it casually and held it in my hand, looking around the store again. This is enough, but as the shopkeeper said, this is a blacksmith's store. I should probably buy some weapons or armor. I also want a blade. Do you have any short blades that I can carry on my waist or back? I'm not very good at handling them, so a thick one would be good. Thick and short. Probably only a machete, I guess. While thinking, the shopkeeper lined up some blades on the counter. There were only machetes and large knives. That's to be expected. Don't worry about it. There's no point in carrying a weapon you can't use. No, I'm sure it will come in handy. When I was attacked by a demon before, a dissection knife was useful. If it doesn't get in the way, it can't hurt to carry it. Ah, this one, please. I stopped at a machete. It was like a machete but with a pointed tip and a thicker blade than a large knife. Sure. That and the cloak will be 3 silver coins. Do you have them? Of course, I wouldn't come if I didn't. Right. The shopkeeper laughed heartily. By the way, do you want your name engraved on the machete? It's extra, but I can do it. No, that's fine. No one will see it. It might be necessary to distinguish your own items in a large group, but I don't need it. Anytime. I immediately put on the robe I bought and felt a sense of pride. I heard that the dye used for this robe has insect-repelling properties. I remember collecting flowers with such properties at Gustav's request, so they probably use the same dye. Well, time to go back. I have to go to the fort early tomorrow to clean it. Clean clothes make you feel good. I walked with a light step. Today was a day without any unpleasantness. The next morning, I woke up early and started preparing eagerly. After all, this is my first real job. The request I did along with the promotion exam was just a side job, and I only delivered some materials. I picked some herbs on my way back from the forest, so I didn't really feel like I had accomplished much. Of course, I didn't slack off, but I think the 2 copper coins I earned were fair compensation. Today is different. Reclaiming an abandoned fort. It's a proper heavy labor job, cleaning up an abandoned fort. When I say cleaning, it's not just sweeping. Of course, I'll have to remove debris, but it's not just that. It involves driving out animals and sometimes monsters that have moved in. Gustav didn't mention such jobs, but I'm sure I can do it. First, I need to eat. Then I'll go. I've seen the fort before. If I go now, I should be able to finish today. I ate some boiled mealworms. I leaped into the sky from the town and looked toward Nug. In the dense forest, a stone building was partially visible. It's probably tens of kilometers away, but it's no problem to fly. I should arrive soon. I continued flying smoothly. I flew over the forest, occasionally avoiding eagles. I'm using invisibility, so there's no need to worry about being attacked. I've learned it. In the forest, something small was visible. It looked like some kind of creature, lying down. Lying down isn't strange in itself, but it was odd that it was lying in a position visible from the sky. If it were resting, it would choose a spot less visible to others. As I got closer, the scene was indeed strange. There were 2 large dogs, lying in a heap. No, they were stacked on top of each other. And they were dead. They had died biting each other. There were traces of foam around their mouths, and their eyes were wide open. They must have fought to the death. There were even signs of a struggle around them. Still, it was a creepy sight. Does this happen often? I've never seen it before, but I don't want to think of it as a fisherman's gain. I'll leave it alone. By the time I come back, someone will probably have eaten it clean. I decided to hurry on. Soon, I arrived at the fort. It was a stone building, like a large town hall, but the watchtower on top made it clear it was a fort. There was no glass left in any of the windows, and the wooden shutters were in tatters. There were holes in some places, so animals must have gotten inside. Well, time to clean up. I need to finish today and call an inspector for confirmation. I bravely entered through a hole in the wall. Well, it's a fairly large building with dozens of rooms. It would be a hassle to search each one individually. So, I'll have to rely on detecting with magic. I could use my usual method of spreading my magic to detect, but today's building is quite large. I think I'll try a different approach. I'll diffuse my magic. This is something I trained based on the technique the demon used to diffuse its fighting aura. Until now, my magic has been activated and launched within the range of my magic field, which is the area where I can spread my magic from my body. I create fireballs or wind blades and launch them outside the magic field. Once launched, the magic starts to lose speed as soon as it leaves the magic field and quickly disappears. So, when I needed to launch something outside the magic field, I always used stones or wood chips as projectiles to hit the target. This was fine, it couldn't penetrate enemies that were hard enough, but it could pierce through enemies that carried some fighting aura, so the power was sufficient. However, telekinesis, which I often use, can't do this. The power doesn't reach outside the magic field and can only be used within it. Well, that wasn't too inconvenient. When I spread it to the fullest, the range of over 100 meters was more than enough. The training started with a simple idea. The demon diffused its fighting aura like a wave to nullify my fireball. Usually, it's impossible to separate fighting aura or magic from the body. That's what I thought. But the demon did it. At the same time, I remembered the healers I had seen before. Ordinary healers are not mags. There was Ember, a mage, but he was an exception. The other healers should not be able to spread magic outside their bodies. Yet, they used spells by placing their hands and healed injuries and diseases. In other words, healers use spells outside their magic fields. The demon used its fighting aura, and the healers used their magic, both detached from their bodies. I realized this fact. I heard that magicians who cast fire or lightning do the same. I still can't do it with fighting aura, and at that time, I couldn't do it with magic either. If I could use it, it might be useful for something. If asked which I'm more accustomed to handling, fighting aura or magic, I would say magic. With that in mind, I started training to send out my magic. The training itself was a trial and error process, and I didn't even know the method. I tried to constrict a part of my magic and tear it off like a gourd, but it just disappeared on the spot once separated. I tried to make the original magic appear outside my body, but I couldn't do it no matter what. I was puzzled and then realized something. I couldn't see the movement of the healer's magic, but I could see the movement of the demon's fighting aura. The biggest hint comes from the biggest enemy. Reflecting on it, there were hints. As a result, I succeeded in sending out my magic by spreading it like a wave. Like magic, it might work because it's a principle I can understand within myself. But if it works, that's fine. The technique of sending out magic has produced an unexpected side effect. Originally, I can perceive everything within my magic field. Even if it's difficult to perceive the inside of living beings with weak fighting aura or magic, I can clearly understand the shape, color, texture, and smell of objects. Exploring the properties of objects touched by the diffused magic wave. Although the details are not as clear as within the magic field, simple exploration is possible. This allows me to understand a wider area. Enough to explore the entire building, which is as large as the Tokyo Dome. And there's one more thing. This is probably the original function, but due to the nature of sending out magic, when used in conjunction, the range of spells like fireballs can be significantly extended. I can launch a fireball as far as the magic wave reaches. It's not something I need often, but it's an unexpected bonus. I'll use this magic wave exploration. The diffused magic passes through the building. The number and layout of the rooms are irrelevant at this point. What I need is the number of living beings of a certain size or larger. When I detect, many small animals are caught. Not just rats, but a considerable number of cats, birds, and bats. Today's job is to drive these animals out. Fortunately, there don't seem to be any monsters, so it looks like an easy job. I couldn't help but smile. I could drive them out by force, but that would still require searching each one. To save that trouble, there's something called knowledge. Indeed, there's a perfect item in the herbalism I learned from Gustav. I take a large bottle from the bag on my waist. The dried contents are the leaves of a plant called mutsu. I go around the rooms where animals are likely to be and scatter the mutsu leaves. Mutsu. This herb has leaves shaped like hollyhocks with a red underside. It seems to have a smell that animals avoid. Just a small amount scattered in the room with the wind is enough to make rats and other animals flee. It works like a repellent, which is why I brought it today, and it seems to be very effective. Using mutsu, I open the rooms smoothly. Cleaning is apparently the responsibility of others, so I don't have to do it. I was told not to intentionally dirty or damage things, but scattering a few leaves should be fine. I decided this on my own. If there's a door, I open it, and if not, I enter the room and scatter the mutsu leaves. It's a simple task. Thanks to the leaves acting as a repellent, the animals don't come back. Before long, I finish the ground floor. At this rate, it should take no more than an hour to finish everything. 3 more floors. I put my foot on the stairs to go to the second floor. At that moment, the upper floor suddenly becomes noisy. Then, rats and cats start running down from the upper floor. Looking outside the window, some are even jumping down to escape. It's clearly an abnormal situation. Something is making them flee. Right now, on the upper floors. Could it be another troublesome matter? I sigh. What should I do? Should I run up there? Or should I go outside and check from the air? I hesitate for a moment, but the situation seems more urgent than I thought. A scream like a tearing silk. Someone, probably a woman, is in danger. I use magic to detect again. The result is 3 humans and a monster on the top floor. That's all I can sense. I can't help but grit my teeth. There shouldn't have been anyone in this building when I entered. Did they flee here from a monster? Or did they corner the monster? The latter shouldn't make them scream. But the situation is strange. A woman seems to have fallen on her bottom, and 2 men are lying on the ground, probably entangled. Frustrated, I run up the stairs. Oh, great. This was supposed to be a simple request, but now there's trouble. I want to leave it alone, but the request is to clean out living things from inside the fortress. If there's a monster, I have to eliminate it. It was originally that kind of job, but it feels like I have one more task, and it makes me feel terrible. The building has a simple structure. I can reach the problematic room without hesitation. Looking at the room from the corridor, I feel a bit overwhelmed as the problem has increased. The wall is burning. Not only is the wooden frame charred and blackened, but some parts are on fire. This is ridiculous. If the reward is reduced because of this, it will be a big loss. I don't know who set it, but I'll have to complain. Thinking this, I kick through the broken door and rush inside. Inside, there's a red-haired girl trembling, 2 men in black lying on the ground, and 1 more. It's the same fox I killed yesterday. It's in the 3rd person, but it's not a casual conversation. In the early morning as the crows flew towards the reclamation of the fortress, she was in trouble. TCH. So persistent. There is a term for night raids and early morning attacks among the Yomi, but for a magician, they are troublesome. That's what she was thinking with a somewhat calm mind. She was being attacked now. Because they were dressed in black and their faces were not visible, she couldn't tell who they were, but she guessed they were a pair of assassins. She had figured that out. Her frustration grew with each attack since leaving Clarice. She had repelled them many times. She had burned their flesh, shattered their bones, and taken their consciousness with her magic many times. Although she couldn't take their lives due to their coordinated attacks, she had inflicted deep wounds and repelled them. Under normal circumstances, they wouldn't be able to fight anymore. She would be unable to stand up. She had inflicted wounds that would make anyone feel that way, yet after a while, they would come back to attack her again. Her limits were approaching. Enough, turned to ashes. With a roar, her red hair began to change. The tips of her long hair wavered and eventually began to heat up. Her hair, now aflame, attacked the assassins as if following her will. The flames, like whips, lashed out, turning the surroundings red. The fallen leaves on the ground dried and burned in the heat that could melt iron. Even the trees were charred. Her iron armor, which she wore, glowed red with the flames. While avoiding the flames, the assassins approached. The small flames rising from the ground and trees were no problem for them. Her fiery hair, known as, would not even scorch their hems if they didn't receive its direct hit. Normally, close combat was not her forte. Moreover, the assassin's sword techniques were extremely fierce. The techniques for killing humans, the refined strikes that could take a life with the fewest moves, could end the life of someone without combat skills in the blink of an eye. They wielded these skills with both hands and in pairs. Their attacks came at her like a storm, inflicting sure wounds. Her armor was being worn down, and the gauntlet on her hand, which had taken the brunt of the attacks, was now exposing her skin. Physical enhancement is no use. She inwardly clicked her tongue. The assassins were each imbued with fighting spirit, and of course, their strikes contained it. Their attacks easily tore through the thick iron armor. Give up. We are not beasts. In the midst of the assault, one of the assassins spoke. The muffled voice through the mask covering his mouth further irritated her. So, what are you saying? She swung her blazing hair widely. A horizontal slash to sweep both of them away, but the assassins, who danced in midair, were not even grazed. If you accept death, we will end your life without pain. We, too, have such mercy. She glared at them, repeatedly clicking her tongue. Even after being repelled so many times, they still had the nerve to speak like this. She wanted to retort, but the fact that she was cornered was also true. The temperature of the area rose as her magical power increased with her anger. Sensing this, the assassins retreated without even looking at each other. Swallow the wax, spread the flames, and dwell in my hand, become a sword of glory and pierce my enemy. The assassins tried to stop her incantation, but her blazing hair blocked them. The numerous flames they swung wildly delayed them. Then, countless flames formed an orange mass and scattered in all directions as thick stakes. Impressive. One of the stakes hit the right leg of one of the assassins. The stake that pierced it burst in the next moment, engulfing the leg. A sound like a paper balloon being crushed echoed. The thigh of the right leg where the flame stake had pierced was torn and splattered. Not yet. Taking advantage of the reduced mobility, she swung her blazing hair. But just as the flame whip was about to catch the assassin, the other one cut off the tip of her hair. The tip of her hair, glowing red and emitting light, melted and disappeared before it hit the ground. One more strike. While she was about to swing her blazing hair, the injured assassin was carried away and retreated into the woods with the other one. Until next time, Miss Tetrahedron. Next time, we will finish you. And with that, they disappeared into the thin darkness created by the trees. I won't lose. Grinding her teeth, Tetra stared at the thin darkness where the assassins had disappeared. It has been 4 days since Tetra left Clarice. The secret city of vice, Clarice. With a strong sense of justice, she couldn't ignore the crimes taking place in Clarice and fled the city. Her destination was the secondary capital, Align. In a large city, her reports would not be suppressed, and proper action would be taken. She believed this, as she found it difficult to doubt people. She knew she was being targeted by assassins as soon as she left the city. The orders must have come from one of the influential figures in Clarice. They had moved quickly to crush Tetra, who was trying to destroy their playground. She couldn't involve innocent people. If she stayed in the city, she might involve innocent civilians. That's why she chose to walk through the mountains instead of the mountain path. If there were to be casualties, it would be from her magic rather than the assassin's blades. She was aware of this, so she made her choice without hesitation. In the afternoon, she was attacked again. The black assassins. Their wounds seemed to have healed, and she could no longer tell which one she had injured. "You're doing well for not being able to use magic." The voice she muttered was half in admiration and half in exasperation. They knew each other's bodies well. By massaging each other, they promoted healing at a speed dozens of times faster than a normal person. They never betrayed each other. This was a feat only they could achieve, a result of their long training. Together, they could hunt demons. Together, they believed they could even fight dragons. "Let's go." The short word was the signal to start the battle. Her blazing hair swung, and the storm of white blades raged. Trees were knocked down, and the ground was scorched. The Nerg forest would not catch fire. This allowed Tetra to freely use her blazing hair. If she had fought on the road or the mountain path, she would have been quickly finished off due to concern for the surroundings. In that sense, advancing through the forest was the right choice. She ran through the forest, casting magic and aiming at the assassins. They dodged, sometimes hiding behind trees, and aimed at Tetra. Her blazing hair, which cut through the trees, and the assassins, who used pebbles and leaves to distract and sneak up, continued their battle. There was no conclusion. Their abilities were evenly matched, and neither could find a decisive move. However, the limit would come. Tetra's left hand was completely exposed. Her gauntlet had shattered. Enough. She threw the gauntlet, now just a piece of scrap iron. Even with her body enhanced by magic, it was impossible for it to hit an assassin. Until now, the assassins had retreated temporarily to regroup, but this time, it was Tetra's turn to retreat. Compared to the assassins, who shared their supplies and healed each other, Tetra was weak in a war of attrition. The difference was clearly shown in the result. She scattered distracting flames while running through the forest. However, the assassins, enhanced by fighting spirit, were faster than Tetra. Every time they were about to catch up, she swung her blazing hair and cast large-scale magic. Still, she was gradually cornered. Tetra's feet stopped for a moment at the sudden appearance of a stone wall in the forest. It was a fortress abandoned in the mountains. The windows were broken, and there were several openings that could serve as entrances. She made a quick decision. She cast several fireballs at the assassins behind her to distract them. Silently, the area around the assassins turned into a sea of fire. Then, she jumped. With her enhanced legs, she ran up the wall. She ran into the open window on the top floor. The room she rolled into seemed to be filled with bats, which flew out of the window one after another. Ignoring them, Tetra looked out the window. Checking the surroundings, she found that this room had only one window. The assassins would have to come up from here. Thinking this, she spread flames. "Swallow the wax, spread the flames, and dwell in my hand, cunningly entangle my enemy." As she chanted, thin threads of flame wrapped around the window like a web. The almost invisible threads, like a spider's web, waited for the assassins. Of course, that alone was not enough. Thinking this, Tetra increased the firepower of her blazing hair. The heat that burned the walls and floor. The sizzling sound of the burning confirmed her victory. Then, a black shadow flew into the window. Got you. Tetra was inwardly pleased, but the next moment, she was confused. The black shadow was engulfed in flames. The threads of fire, which immobilized and burned the target, were part of the magic. That was fine. But the black shadow was small. This is just a piece of cloth. The assassins wouldn't fall for such a simple trap. They had thrown a rolled-up spare garment. Even the famous seems unaccustomed to fighting humans. A voice echoed in the room. A strike from the side. Her left hand, now without armor, received a deep wound. Blood splattered. Not good. She needed to stop the bleeding quickly. Seeing the wound, Tetra panicked. The small wounds she had received so far had not been poisoned, but this bleeding was bad. Her arm was getting cold, and a small pool of blood was forming on the floor. She wanted to treat it, but with them around, it was impossible. They must have entered through the window while she was distracted by the burning shadow. They might have entered from the hallway, but it didn't matter now. How to drive them away? Magic. Spells. She thought, but couldn't find a way. Her escape route was cut off. If she moved too much in combat, she would soon lose consciousness from the blood loss. Was this the end? Blood dripped from her clenched lips. Have you given up? It's a bit late, but wise of you. The assassin slowly closed the distance. She couldn't die here. She had to expose that city. She had a reason not to die. But even so, she couldn't do anything. A new shadow appeared in Tetra's eyes, which were about to give up. Behind the assassins, something flew into the room through the window. The assassins, surprised, turned around. Escaping to the fortress on this day was probably Tetra's misfortune. A fox, with red glowing eyes, looked at the three of them. The fox was searching. The hateful human who killed the other half of itself must still be nearby. A scent wafted through the air, a single thread of smell that seemed to beckon amidst the dust. If it followed this, it would surely reach its goal soon. As it entered the forest, the target's scent grew fainter. The smell of the weak was getting in the way. The fox gnashed its teeth. The human scent was mixed in with the smell of the weak. I have no intention of eating you now. The partner is dead. It has vanished into a dark world where it can no longer cry or eat. That hateful human who took my partner to that dark world must be offered up. Otherwise, I don't deserve to eat either. This was a feeling of mourning that the fox should not have had. As it followed the scent of the hateful human, it encountered the weak along the way. The weak seemed to have some wisdom, as they gathered in numbers to face it. I don't have time to deal with you. With just a glare, the weak ones easily made way. As the weak ones felt like they were begging for mercy, it didn't matter. What mattered was where the hateful human was. Day and night, the march of the death-bringing fox continued until the next day. As it ran, the fox didn't notice the changes happening to its body. Its fur grew harder and longer, becoming armor to protect itself. Its claws grew thick and sharp, capable of easily tearing through steel. The fin on its back formed sharp spines, carrying a poison that inflicted pain on those it wounded. These changes were due to the permeation of magic, a transformation that anyone with magic could undergo. However, humans didn't know the details. Only some mags used it unknowingly. The fox, now even more powerful, continued to search for its prey. By midday of the next day, it finally caught a decisive scent. A fresh, new scent. The scent trail was clear, distinguishable even when mixed with the smell of the weak. It followed the trail. The smell of burned wood and blood interfered, but it paid no mind. Leaving clear claw marks on the ground, the fox raced forward. It must be a human building. The hateful stones were piled up. The scent of the hateful human came from inside, but so did an unpleasant smell. It had smelled this before in the forest, a place neither it nor its partner would approach. An unpleasant smell. But the hateful scent was there. What should it do? It decided to enter from where the scent was fainter. Just as it was looking around the building, it noticed an orange light. Fire. The fire that burned its partner, turning it into the same form as its food. The fox's eyes were filled with hatred. It no longer cared where the scent was coming from. It climbed up the tree to the source of the fire. Landing silently, it found the fire and several humans. The scent of the hateful human was not on them. But they were humans, the same as those who killed its partner. For the fox, that was enough to make them targets for revenge. Die. Die. And atone. Atonement for the sin of taking the other half of itself, with their lives. The fox's eyes were clouded. The sudden intruder increased Teta's anxiety. If it were just a beast, it would be fine. But this was likely a monster, a particularly vicious one. She had heard of it, though only through hearsay. A monster that doesn't flinch or retreat before a large army, a single roar can destroy a battalion. It can break through an encirclement or block a force like a mountain range. Its appearance inspires terror, and anyone who meets its gaze will go mad. With a fin on its back, it resembled a white fox. It was called the full seal, and that's what was said about it. The fox opened its mouth. Seeing its fangs, the assassins moved. The fear-inducing magic, as expected, was mitigated by the combat aura. Even the assassins closest to the fox were only on high alert. Eliminate the obstacles immediately. Even a legendary monster can be killed instantly. They thought so. Until now. Without a signal or a nod, the assassins perfectly synchronized their timing. One aimed for the belly, the other for under the jaw. They struck at vital points that would kill any ordinary creature. Perfect coordination. From Teta's perspective, the terrifying fox seemed to be hunted. But it wasn't that simple. The assassin's daggers bent and twisted, overpowered by the fox's natural body. This proved that the assassins were capable of exerting such force, and that they were not incompetent. The assassins, surprised, jumped back. One of them, the fox looked at with a bored expression. Their gazes met. That was all it took. Tilde 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 tilde. The assassin's mask was soaked with vomit. His blood vessels constricted sharply. He couldn't look away. In those few moments, the assassin's clothes were drenched with sweat. Terror took over his mind. He scratched his head, foaming at the mouth. The other, noticing the abnormality, realized something was wrong with his partner. When something unusual happens, they immediately choose to flee. That was their way. Jumping towards his partner, he carried him. Checking the window and the fox's position. Teta didn't matter now. That was his judgment, and looking at the fox was his biggest mistake. Their gazes met, and his instincts screamed danger. He instinctively tightened his grip on his partner's torso. His partner only groaned, offering no resistance. Shuyua yua yua. The fox let out a warning growl. It was meant to intimidate, but to the assassins, it was more than that. They had to escape. Their minds were filled with that thought. They had to escape from this fox. Teta didn't matter. Their safety was the priority. Where should they run? Outside, and then where? They had to run. Somewhere far, where this fox wouldn't follow. Where could they go where the fox wouldn't follow? Surely, the fox would pursue them anywhere. In their work, meals, sleep, and even in intimate moments, they would live in fear of this fox. They didn't want that. They wanted a world where the fox wouldn't follow. They saw their daggers. Staring at the blue glow, a revelation hit them. The world they sent their targets to, a world where no one would follow. If they died, the fox wouldn't follow. Seizing this sudden light, they clung to it. Drawing their blades, they pointed them at their partner. The partner couldn't move. The assassin carrying him made a decision. Then, he would let his partner escape first. He would follow after. It was a pure act of kindness. The carried assassin came to the same conclusion. The partner couldn't let go of him. He should let his partner escape. First, he would kill his partner, then himself. The fear the fox emitted surpassed their fear of death, altering their priorities. The blow, born from their kindness to each other, sent them to the world of death with no time difference. Teta had witnessed everything. The assassins, who bravely faced the fox, chose to flee after a single clash and then committed suicide. Why did they need to commit suicide? She didn't understand. A powerful monster. She couldn't handle it. Just being here made her legs shake. Being in the same room felt like her mind was being invaded. It was over. She thought. If it was hungry, would it be satisfied with the assassins' bodies? A faint wish rose in her heart. But the fox showed no signs of leaving. It was over. Clearly, the fox was here with some hostility. Not hunger, but some malevolent intent. The fox took a step. Her fur stood on end. Her limbs stiffened. Could she drive it away? She briefly considered it. After all, she only knew the stories about this monster. There was a possibility that they were just rumors. She was slightly inferior to assassins in human combat but not in monster combat. Believing this, she activated her flame hair. It was possible only because of her rock-solid mental strength. She swung her flame hair to intimidate. The fiery swings, if the fox hadn't changed, might have burned it. But the fox stood there, ignoring it. A lively prey. Thinking this, the fox took a step forward. Just that was enough to make Teta's resistance meaningless. Oh. The strength left Teta's body. She fell heavily onto the floor. Her buttocks hurt, but it didn't matter now. Overwhelming terror. The terror from the fox finally broke her mental strength. The emotions she had been holding back overflowed. No. I still can't handle sharp objects, huh? I muttered to myself. For some reason, the fox was a bit harder than yesterday. When I cut off its head, the middle part of the mountain knife's blade chipped a little. I probably hit a bone, which caused the damage. I might need to get it maintained. I'll have to visit that blacksmith again. Well, what should I do now? I look up and survey the room, where the fox and the men's corpses lie, and a woman is sitting on the floor. Could you tell me what happened? I ask the woman, showing her the mountain knife. She shudders and looks up at me. She speaks in a small, trembling voice. Then, as if making a decision, she raises her head. First, thank you. For saving me from Full Seal. Full Seal. Is that the fox's name? I thought it might be one of the men, but they were already dead before I entered the room. When I ask, she nods, as I expected, looking at the fox's corpse. Full Seal burst in while I was being attacked by assassins. These men killed themselves when they saw Full Seal. Assassins, huh? That's not a peaceful situation. I secretly tighten my grip on the mountain knife. This is a sign of caution. So, why were you attacked by assassins? In the middle of the mountains. My caution seems to have gotten through to her, and her expression stiffens. I can hear her swallow. Well, it's a long story, but, could you put away your weapon first? I'm not your enemy. Unfortunately, I have no proof of that. From her appearance, it seems she was indeed attacked by the fox. However, everything else is based on her statement. There's a possibility that she and the men were accomplices. Even if she and the men were fighting, there's a chance she was the one who assassinated them. They were here in the fortress I was hired to investigate. I haven't had any recent reasons to be targeted, but caution is still necessary. I can't tell you the reason right now. But please believe me. All right, that's fine. If she's trustworthy, I'll deal with her accordingly. If not, her lies will eventually come to light. I'm confident I can judge by observing her actions. I was dodging assassins and heading towards Ireland through the forest. There, I found this fortress and took refuge in it, okay. I finish her sentence for her, and she doesn't deny it. Looking at her, I see she's pressing her left arm and blood is flowing from her mouth. Ah, that injury was caused by a sharp weapon. Where's your weapon? She doesn't seem to have one. If she was attacked by the men, it's unnatural that she didn't have a weapon. Was she fighting with her bare hands? I'm a midge. Really? That explanation clears up my doubts. Then, can I see your injury? Sure. I carefully examine the injury, making sure not to miss any movements. It's an internal injury. If so, it was likely inflicted by one of those assassins. Well, that's fine. Whether she was the attacker or the attacked, the target was either her or the corpses on the floor. It doesn't seem to be me, and she was overwhelmed by the fox. If she had attacked me, I would have been able to handle it. I lower my guard. If she's a midge, keeping Mikey active should be enough. I sheathe the mountain knife, and she lets out a sigh of relief. What is it? She looks apologetic and offers. Can I treat your wound? She points to her bag. Now that I think about it, it's quite a deep wound. It needs to be treated soon. Sure, go ahead. I still have some questions, but we can talk while you treat it. I could have started treating it myself, but maybe she was hesitant to make any sudden moves with my weapon pointed at her. You're strong. She skillfully ties the joint with her mouth and right hand, inserts a piece of wood into the bandage, and twists it up. She applies medicine and wraps the bandage around it. You must be strong too, right? Since you're a midge. She's the second midge I've seen after Ember. She probably uses fire. Thinking about that, I look at the charred walls around us. Then, I remember. She reacts to my exclamation. I glare at her, and she stiffens for a moment. Did you set the fortress on fire? Yes. With my magic. What? She is confused but doesn't back down. I might lose money due to the repair costs. What? What do you mean? I'm in charge of cleaning this fortress. If it's damaged, the repair costs will be deducted from my pay. I smile and wave my hand. Can I have the Exploration Guild testify that you caused the damage? She nods stiffly. I didn't mean to intimidate her. So, you're a midge, right? Yes. I'm actually quite well known. She pauses, as if just noticing me. By the way, I didn't introduce myself after you saved me. I'm sorry. I'm Trahedron. As a midge, I'm known as Blazing Hair. Is it because of your hair color? The red color of her hair. And the fact that she uses fire, right? It's the magic I can use. She smiles. The heat in the room rises. Her hair glows red and burns. No, it's not burning. This is. Are you turning your hair into fire? Yes. The firepower I can generate is unmatched by ordinary magic. It's my pride. Her hair, which was down to her waist, now extends to the floor. I see, she can move it freely and probably extend it further. As a high-damage close-range attack, it's quite useful. As I watch, her burning hair returns to normal, and Tra looks at me expectantly. I haven't introduced myself yet. I'm Crow. I don't have a last name. I'm an explorer. Crow, ha. Nice to meet you. You don't need to use honorifics. If you really want to, that's fine. I can't call someone stronger than me by their first name. Then, you should change your tone too. I thought that, but it's not worth pointing out. So, I have work to do after this. What about you, Tro? What do you mean, what about me? Are you going to continue to Ireland on your own, or will you come with me? If you come with me, you'll have to wait. How much longer will it take? Probably about half an hour. Since I need the Exploration Guild to testify, I need to know where you are. But if you're heading to Ireland, I can find you easily. Half an hour. Well, then, I'll definitely wait. I don't understand why she's surprised, but I'll finish my work quickly. All right. Please wait in this room. I stretch and head down the stairs. Scattering the seeds is a simple task. The second and third floors, now devoid of any monsters, and even some areas where the foxes had driven away the animals, significantly shortened the time required. If only the foxes had appeared, they would have been helpful for this particular mission. In fact, if I could use the same magic as that fox, it would make things much easier. If I could climb to the top of the building and use a spell to spread fear, I wouldn't even need to scatter these plants. The problem is that I don't understand the principle or the mechanism behind it, but I'll try to think about it if I get the chance. It's not clear when I'll take on such a fort cleaning job again. Done. Is it okay to leave now? I returned to the fox's room and called out to Teta. Why yes, it's fine. It's fine. She seemed surprised and answered in a flustered manner. It was a bit suspicious, but it didn't feel malicious. She would probably be fine even if left alone. But, before we go, I turned my gaze to the 3 bodies lined up against the wall. Would it be okay to leave these bodies as they are? The bodies of the men and the fox had their eyes wide open, as if they had died with regret. I approached and gently closed their eyes. I managed to close the men's eyes, but the foxes were stiff and wouldn't close. It must have died with a lot of regret. Do you have any tools for digging, or something? I tried to confirm with Teta, but it was clear from her appearance that she only had a small bag. According to what I heard earlier, she had let go of most of her belongings when fleeing from the men's attack.
PMITV
Well,
audiobook.
but, are you going to bury them? Yes. It seems a bit pitiful, doesn't it? While the saying goes that the dead become Buddhas, I personally don't have any grudges against these bodies. If it weren't for the trouble, I could do something for them. Especially the fox, since I didn't even know how to eat it. Velshile's body could fetch a lot of money if sold. Is that so? If it's useful, I'll consider taking it, but what is it useful for? Medicine? Or as a material? The words "a lot of money" piqued my curiosity. I could sell it to the guild or Gustav. That. I haven't heard of it being hunted, so I'm not sure, but I think there are people who would want it. Is it that rare a monster? I've taken down 2 of them in a row, including yesterday. Teta froze, her eyebrows furrowed, and she had an interesting expression. Is it that rare for them to appear in succession? Maybe they're swarming. If we encounter one on the way back, it would be great. No, are you crazy? Calling me crazy is rude. When I protested, Teta pursed her lips and clenched her fists in the air. She looked like she wanted to say something but couldn't. Well, since she was just attacked by the monster, it's understandable that she wouldn't agree with me wanting to see more. I should have been more considerate. No, I'm sorry. You probably don't want to see that monster again, Teta. That's not what I meant, but never mind. Teta seemed unsatisfied and didn't even try to hide her wry smile. Now, let's get back to the discussion with Teta. We can't dig the ground. If burial isn't possible, cremation is an option. But using magic, which I've already used with Ki, would be unnatural, and I doubt she would do it as a memorial. So, leaving them exposed, water burial, or air burial, or perhaps a bird burial. We can't dig, so I'll let the men's bodies flow down the river. Is that okay? Water burial should be fine. I don't think a memorial is necessary. Just do as you please. Understood. I was prepared to stop if she objected, but Teta didn't seem to care much about the bodies. She was supposed to have been attacked, but her reaction was rather indifferent. I checked the surroundings from the window. Since this place was used as a base, there should be a water source nearby, and I remember a river flowing. Sure enough, I could see the river from the opposite side of the corridor. Then, I'll be back. I carried the two bodies on my shoulders. They were masked, and I had never heard their voices or spoken to them. That's probably why I didn't feel any particular emotion about their bodies. I jumped out of the window with the two bodies. I landed on the trees a few times as a cushion and found the river right in front of me. Rest in peace. I recited a prayer and placed the two bodies in the deeper part of the river. I had heard that you should prevent them from floating, but I didn't feel like going that far. I could see blood flowing from their wounds. When I carried them, they were still warm. They hadn't been dead for long. Yet, fish were already gathering to peck at the wounds. Death means becoming food for others. I'm sure I will too. I didn't feel any particular emotion, but seeing human bodies made me strongly realize this. I climbed back up the wall and returned to Teta. She was waiting with a complex expression, her arms crossed. Sorry to keep you waiting. Those guys could have been left alone. The bodies are not at fault. I understand, but I can't relate to that. Well, everyone has their own view of life and death. Especially for her, who was once an enemy, it's hard to understand. Honestly, I could say I did it because it was part of the job. I did it because they died in this fort. If they had died outside the fort, I would have left them. Funerals should be done when and how you want to do them. Now, about the fox's body. Then, I'll take the fox's body back. But how should I carry it? Thinking about it, I don't have the equipment to carry it. Even with the giant snake, I gave up because of that. Don't explorers have large bags for collecting materials? This isn't an exploration mission. I don't bring containers for carrying large items unless it's a collection mission. The fox's body weighed over 300 kilograms. A cart would be useful. I think there was a room that looked like a warehouse, but I don't think I could move it through the forest, and I don't think there was anything big enough to carry the fox. Could I use telekinesis? I could, but I've already shown Teta my key, and I don't want to use magic. Could I carry it normally? With activated key, I could lift it, but the size would make it difficult to walk. It would be easier if it had handles. I think it's best to hide it, but it's not that important. If worst comes to worst, I could use magic to carry it. But then I realized that Teta could use magic. Can you use magic to transport it? When I asked, Teta hesitated. I can use the follow and float spell, but it's too heavy to carry for a long journey. How long can you maintain it? With this weight, 1 hour, no, 1.5 hours at most. My magic power would run out after that. She looked away and sighed. Well, it seems like it's usable. Then, please. As a fee, how about 5% of the sale price? Huh. Were you even listening? I was. You can carry it, right? I was taken aback by Teta's increasingly harsh tone, not understanding what had upset her. Are you asking me to carry it for days to Ireland? Don't ask for something unreasonable just because I owe you my life. Days. No, it should only take half an hour to Ireland. Teta froze again. What's going on? No, it's still over 200 100 kilometers. To Ireland, right. I think it's about that far, but, I see. The discomfort I felt when I asked her to wait here earlier finally made sense. Just to check, how long do you expect it to take to get to Ireland? With magic enhancement, it should take 2 days, I think. Ah, I see. It made sense. Her marching ability is about the same as a regular horse. Even for a magic user like her, moving like Rishit or me is impossible. What are you agreeing to? No, the difference in our expectations is clear now. If I had followed her pace, it would have taken 2 days to get to Ireland. That's what it means. I gave a wry smile. I'll carry Teta, who is using the follow and float spell. This will solve everything, so please let me do it. What do you mean? If you do as I say, we can get to Ireland quickly. Teta swallowed her objections. She must want to get to Ireland as soon as possible. If she still refused, I would have to give up on the repair costs. But she finally agreed, albeit hesitantly. Then, what should I do? First, activate the follow and float spell. I asked her to float the fox first. She reluctantly complied. Then, as I said, I'll carry you. The spell will make the object float and follow your movements, right? Yes, but... Teta looked reluctant but had already agreed. It was too late to back out now. Excuse me. Chiara. I placed my hands on her shoulders and under her knees and lifted her onto my back. Adjusting my key to avoid interfering with her spell was tricky, but I could manage. Then, we'll leave now. I'll try not to shake you, but I'm sorry if I do. Wait, what do you? Without waiting for her response, I jumped out of the window. Chiara. I could feel Teta's body stiffen. It would be best if she held on, but even if she didn't move, it would be helpful. Please don't let the spell run out. That was my only concern. A scream echoed through the Nurg forest. Clat. Please don't scream so close to my face. I ran, jumping from tree to branch. I could run faster on the ground, but I didn't want to get the fox's body caught on branches. So, I ran through the gaps between branches, ending up running through the upper part of the forest. It was difficult to avoid shaking, and I inevitably moved up and down when jumping. Home. Midway through the journey, the strength in Teta's body suddenly disappeared, and her screaming stopped. Had she fainted? But when I looked at her face, she seemed conscious, just pale and muttering something. The spell hadn't run out, so it was good that she was quiet. I decided to ignore it and continued running. We've arrived. Good work. We reached a wheat field near Ireland in just over an hour. I didn't want to carry her into the city, so I stopped here. Let's head to the Exploration Guild on 12th Street. As I said this, I put Teta down. Teta, who had been silent, couldn't stand on her own and collapsed. Are you okay? I should have refused. I should have just paid the money. Teta's complaints continued like a monologue. It took her about 5 minutes to restart the spell. Here we are. Good work. We reached a wheat field near Ireland in just over an hour. I didn't want to carry her into the city, so I stopped here. Let's head to the Exploration Guild on 12th Street. As I said this, I put Teta down. Teta, who had been silent, couldn't stand on her own and collapsed. Are you okay? I should have refused. I should have just paid the money. Leaving the corpse as it is will attract attention. The fox's body floated behind us as we walked towards the town, following us softly. In the forest, it wouldn't have mattered who saw it, but once we entered the town, it would undoubtedly attract attention. Indeed, people working in the fields stopped their work and watched us from a distance. Even though it would be evening soon and there would be fewer people around, I didn't feel like walking through the town like this. Actually, I didn't feel like passing through the town gate like this. Should we cover it with some cloth or something? Tetra, looking apologetic, spoke up as I pondered. It's good to think, but it would be appreciated if you could hurry. To be honest, my magic is a bit. We're still far from the time you mentioned earlier, right? I was sure she had said about 2.5 hours ago. It hadn't even been an hour and a half yet, and she was already at her limit. I would have confidence in holding it under normal circumstances. Under normal circumstances. I'm just joking. You were really tired earlier. It's fine. I'll take over. Magic is greatly influenced by mental fatigue. It was inevitable that her magic, which had been shaken up at high speed, would deplete faster than usual. Using my fighting spirit, I lifted it. A squishy sensation was transmitted to my hands. At the same time, it seemed the levitation magic had been cancelled, and the fox's limbs hung limply. It's hard to carry and should be wrapped in something. I thought that, but neither I nor Tetra had anything like that. Thinking about it, we might have found some cloth if we had searched the fort's warehouse. There would probably have been shovels and such as well. We should have searched more thoroughly. It's no use regretting now. It would take time to go back, so we should make do with what we have. In the end, I decided to wrap it in the robe I bought yesterday. I was worried if it would fit, but I managed to hide most of the body. It's not its intended use, but if I sell the fox, I can get money. I can buy another one with that money. Tetra was taken aback by my sudden undressing, but I ignored her. We arrived at the guild, but then I was in a bind. The corpse was too big to fit through the guild's entrance. What should we do in such a case? When I asked Tetra, she tilted her head, saying it was different from the magic guild. I'll go inside to consult. Can you keep an eye on this? It would be nice if I could call a staff member out. Sure, but in this situation. Looking around, there were quite a few onlookers. It seemed unusual to bring such a large corpse, and they were guessing what it was from a distance. This must be the place to make a name for myself. The image of me telling an adventure tale in front of the fox's corpse came to mind. As the smoke appeared, it turned out to be not smoke but a transformed fox. On the 100th year, I prepared my blade and glared at the fox, saying, "Prepare yourself, transformed fox." The fox came at me head-on, and I swung. I'll stop. I realized it was impossible just by imagining it. Besides, I've never seen an explorer who talks like that. My face turned red just from imagining it. Why am I speaking in such an old-fashioned way in my imagination? What kind of corpse is that? Finally, one of the onlookers asked directly. There's no need to hide it, so I answered normally. It's a fox's corpse. It's a bit big. A fox? Why are you bringing something like that to sell? The man, who seemed to be on his way home from work, rubbed his stubble and blinked. It's a monster, but it's rare, so I thought I could sell it. When I said that, the man's eyes widened, and he burst out laughing. Ha ha! Don't be ridiculous. It's big, but it's not a monster. Or what? Did you pick up something someone else hunted? What do you mean? That's strange. It feels like he's picking a fight. Looking around, there were people grinning at me and the man, and others leaving the crowd, looking exasperated. This is the first time in a while. The look of contempt. The baseless assumption that I can't do it. Feeling that, I quickly ended the conversation. Without a doubt, it's a fox I hunted. Is it okay now? I want to sell it at the guild quickly. There's no way a shrimp like you could hunt a monster. Laughter of ridicule echoed from the crowd. I hate that voice. I saw Tetra's worried gesture at the corner of my eye but waved it off. Well, I guess it's understandable that it looks that way to ordinary people. I said it with a hint of sarcasm, implying that he lacked the eye to see it. When I was in the slums, I would have settled things quietly to avoid trouble. But there's no point in doing that anymore. At the same time, there's no need to deliberately cause a commotion. Whatever you say, this is a fox I hunted. I want to sell it quickly, so I'll save the fight for another time. Leaving that behind, I ignored the man, who was about to say something, and went into the guild. Looking back, I saw Tetra's worried face. Sorry, can you watch it for a bit? Quickly. Right. I need to sell it quickly and leave. I'd like to sell this. At the material purchase counter, I showed my guild card and spoke. The receptionist gave a half-hearted response at first, but when she saw my badge, she immediately smiled. She's quick to change her attitude. Sure, what kind of material is it? It's not exactly a material, but a monster's corpse. To be honest, I'm not sure if you'll buy it. I brought it whole on a friend's advice, but you can check the corpse outside if you like. An entire corpse. If it's a useful monster, we can buy it, but the price will be lower because it's not dissected. That's fine. Understood. A staff member will be with you shortly, so please wait outside. She smiled and urged me. I don't really want to go out now, but there's no choice. When I came out of the guild, the man from earlier was still there. Seeing him, I deliberately frowned. Tetra looked at me, as if asking for help, and her mouth moved. She was probably saying, quickly. Sorry to keep you waiting. Is this the monster? I stopped involuntarily when I saw the man. The male staff member, who walked past me, looked at me and asked, pointing at the fox's corpse with a troubled smile. Yes, please. It's called a full seal, I think. Full seal. The staff member's smile turned to shock. What's going on? Is it that surprising? The staff member rushed over and opened the robe. Seeing the headless corpse, the man who had confronted me earlier gasped and stepped back. This is. The staff member swallowed hard. His hands were visibly trembling. I'm sorry, but could you please move this to the back of the guild? I can't make a judgment on my own. Then he stood up and gestured for me to follow. Sure, but it feels like it's becoming a big deal. The monster itself should be traded, so why is it causing such a commotion just because I brought in a fox? The man who confronted me is stunned. I just came to sell it, so I wish they would let me go smoothly. I don't like these kinds of big deals, they're troublesome. I picked up the fox and sighed deeply. Let me get straight to the point, we cannot assign a price to it. Several officials came to inspect the corpse that had been transported to the back, and after a thorough discussion, they reached this conclusion. It was the result of a long and exhausting series of questions about the place and circumstances of the killing. Tetra said she had some business to take care of in the guild and had gone inside a while ago. This was likely related to the reason she was aiming for this town. I asked the apologetic official for an explanation. Does this mean it has no value? No, it's not that it has no value. However, there are so few cases that there is no market price for it. Does it not appear very often? It's rare, but its value doesn't increase because no one knows how to use it. That's the situation. There are only 2 recorded cases of it being hunted. Each was by the most skilled explorers of their time. In other encounters, most of those who encountered it in small groups have died. Is it that strong a monster? This fox. I thought that if you were careful with magic, there wouldn't be any particular problems. It's hard to believe that everyone would die. The official closed his mouth and looked at me as if I were a strange creature. You don't know how terrifying this monster is. I thought it used scary magic. But otherwise, it's just a fox with a bit of strength. When I answered, the official's eyes sharpened, and he leaned forward as if to deliver important news. He then slowly began to speak. Are you familiar with the war that took place before you were born? Yes, a little. It was a minor conflict between the neighboring country of Musical and this country, Essen, over the territory of Nurg. Musical declared war, aiming to claim the entire holy territory surrounding Nurg. This town, being adjacent to Nurg, was deeply involved in the conflict. Incidentally, at that time, the neighboring country's agents allowed Nurg's monsters to attack Elaine. This was one of the reasons why Gustav was anxious during the previous dragon rampage. In the end, the culprit of the previous dragon rampage was never identified, but Gustav was relieved that it was not related to the war. At that time, there was a clash between the Night Orders, which could be considered the main forces of both countries. The battlefield was devastated when a Furseal appeared. Devastated. Not just chaos. Yes, devastated. However, only about 1/10 of the total were directly killed by the Furseal. About 70% of the rest committed suicide. Excuse me, but were the knights incompetent? It's a rather impolite question, but that's impossible. The Night Order of this country, which borders Nurg, is composed of elite members. Especially the main forces, which can hold their own against the top explorers of the Exploration Guild. A battlefield with over 1,000 of them was devastated by just one monster. The official's voice was filled with passion. So, this is an abnormal situation. A young explorer like you has hunted a monster that can devastate a Night Order. To be honest, the guild in this town doesn't feel capable of handling it. I didn't realize how strong it was when I killed it. But I'm not particularly interested in its strength. If that's the case, how will the guild respond? I understand. So, the guild will not buy it this time. No, that's not the case. After all, the guild exists to support explorers. They can't just do nothing here. Indeed, we cannot buy it. Given the uncertain value, we cannot assign a price. Then what? The Exploration Guild proposes to auction it as a taxidermy. An auction. Yes. One of the 2 recorded cases was auctioned. Similarly, we can auction it through the guild, and the proceeds can be given to you. I see. Since the guild can't assign a price, they will entrust it to another place. It seems like a reasonable proposal. By the way, what happened to the other one? The corpse was so damaged that it had to be discarded. It had numerous wounds all over it. Perhaps it wasn't hunted for its materials, or maybe the explorer had a certain personality. Either way, it's a waste. There are no other examples. Following the precedent, it seems best to auction it. It might take some time, though. It won't be too much trouble, but it will take some time, about 1 to 2 weeks. Once it's sold, we will deduct our commission from the sale price and pay you the remainder. The profit is not yet determined, but it's a transaction that won't result in a loss. It sounds good. I think I'll entrust it. Understood. Please handle it. What is the commission? We take 10% of the sale price. In other words, if it doesn't sell well, we don't profit either. That sounds fair. Please do your best. Action for their own benefit. The most reliable thing. After that, we discussed the details, and the auction was decided. I will come back in about 2 weeks to get the results. By the way, how much did the previous Furseal sell for? The previous one sold for 65 gold coins. Thank you. I promised to pay Tetra 5% of the sale price. However, it's better to pay a reasonable reward now rather than waiting for the uncertain amount after the auction. Of course, it depends on Tetra's wishes, but I think she will agree. Tetra had gone into the building and hadn't come out yet. She should still be inside. I need her to testify at the Exploration Guild on 3rd Street. I wonder what she's doing. I looked around the reception area and found the red-haired woman I was looking for. Tetra was shouting at the receptionist. An outsider like you has no authority to withdraw the request. Please understand. But is it okay for the Exploration Guild to act like this? You're part of the problem. She's causing trouble. I sighed, not for the first time today. Excuse me, but how much longer will this take? What do you mean, no, Mr. Crow? Tetra's increasingly aggressive arguments made her look like a customer complaint. Some complainers stop when someone intervenes. I tried it, and it worked. Tetra was the type who calms down when someone interrupts. I don't know what your business is, but I need to get to 3rd Street as soon as possible, with you. It would be appreciated if you could finish quickly. I looked at the receptionist, who seemed exasperated. As I've said multiple times, we cannot accept your request. Please leave. With a bitter expression, Tetra glared at the receptionist. Fine. I give up. I'll try elsewhere, but I'm sure the response will be the same. I'm glad you understand. I'm not sure what happened, but if it's settled, that's good. I hope so. When we left the guild, the sun was already setting, and it was almost evening. That was a waste of time. So, how did it go for you? I mean, Mr. Crow. You don't need to use formal language. The fur seal will be auctioned. It will take some time to see a profit, so I thought I could pay the transportation fee now based on the previous amount. Is that okay? Sure, but it must be a lot of money, right? It's not a small amount. Roughly, it's 4 gold coins. Huh. I took out the gold coins and counted them, but Tetra hesitated to take them. Well, I appreciate it, even though I don't have any travel money right now, but such a large amount, for that, it might not be enough, but as you said, you don't have any travel money. I thought it would be better to take it now. If you don't want it, we can do it later. When I said that, Tetra tentatively extended her hand. I'm so weak, taking money here. Forgive me, noble heroes. Why do people like Rishit and Tetra hesitate to take their rewards? Am I that suspicious? Feeling secretly hurt, we headed for the Exploration Guild on 3rd Street. It would be bad to be late, so we ran on the rooftops for part of the way. This time, Tetra didn't shout. In the Exploration Guild at twilight, it was bustling with adventurers who had just completed their quests. Well, this is. Tetra, seeing this scene, was somewhat taken aback. It was understandable. Adventurers with mud-caked armor and cloaks, bags stained with blood, and the smell of alcohol permeating the building. This place looked entirely different from the guild I usually saw. Of course, not everyone was dressed in dirty clothes. Some, who had worked in the city or on indoor tasks, were neatly dressed. However, the impact of the adventurers who had just completed slaying missions was very strong. Miss Tetra, you were a mage at the Magic Guild, right? Is this different from there? Completely different. With a weary expression, Tetra firmly replied. Maybe it's because the jobs are a bit different. Since research is the main focus, there aren't many people who get their clothes dirty. There are some, like me, who work in practical applications, but not to this extent. Well, I guess it's a difference in customs. Adventurers, whether with objects or people, believed that as long as something was useful, it was fine even if it was dirty or a bit damaged. In contrast, mags wanted to operate in a state as close to perfect as possible. Furthermore, the former could be challenged by anyone, while the latter was limited to those with magical power. This difference in criteria was probably at work here. Well, I guess we have to wait in line. A long queue had formed at the counter for reporting completed quests. There were about a dozen people, so it wouldn't take too long if we waited. Excuse me, but could you please wait with me? I know. In the chart room at the top of the fortress, which looked like it had been hit by a fire, Tetra reluctantly stood next to me. By the way, didn't you throw away that black cloak that suited you so well? Yeah, it's fine. I just bought it yesterday, and I don't have any attachment to it. The robe stained with Fulshile's blood had been left with the corpse. I liked it, but I could buy a new one tomorrow when I went to repair my machete. To avoid this happening again, I decided to add a large cloth to my gear, even for missions that didn't involve material collection. Finally, it was my turn. I'm Crow, who took the quest. I've completed the pest control at the fortress and am here to report. Sure. Thank you for your hard work. Let me see. The receptionist flipped through the stack of quest slips. She found one, pulled it out, and said, "Ah, yes. Thank you for waiting. Mr. Crow, the reclamation of the fortress, right. The date of acceptance is yesterday. Yes, I accepted it in the afternoon yesterday." When I added this detail, the receptionist alternated her gaze between me and the quest slip, then looked at the badge on my collar and nodded in understanding. Indeed, that's quite fast. No problem, I've confirmed it. Now, about the next step. Yes. Actually, it will be tomorrow, but the guild will send a staff member to verify. If they determine there are no issues, the quest will be considered complete. Is that acceptable? That's fine. The reward will be given after that, right? Yes. 2 days from now, when you come back, we will inform you of the result and either pay you or request a re-clearance. If a re-clearance is needed, we'll count on you. Although I don't think that will happen. 2 days from now. So, it takes a day for the guild staff to verify and return. A question came to mind, and I decided to ask. I thought about this when I accepted the quest. Yes, what is it? Even if I clear out the pests, won't wild animals just come back in a day or two? If I drove them all out, it wouldn't take long for the animals to return and make it their den again. It seemed odd that I would clear them out and then have a staff member come in later. That's not a problem. Even if the staff finds a few animals, the quest will still be considered complete. The goal of this pest control quest is to reduce the number, so it's fine as long as most of them are driven away. Ah, that's true. There were a lot of them. Probably hundreds of various animals, including rats, dogs, cats, and birds. Also, the receptionist smiled with a mischievous look. The animals of Nurg are not so foolish as to return immediately after an external threat has invaded. This was a statement of confidence in the resilience of Nurg's animals. Well, if the receptionist says so, it should be fine. Besides, I've also laid down repellents. It's unlikely that dogs and cats will come in. Especially the one Gustav recommended, which even repels monsters. I used it because of that, so I'll have to trust it. I want to trust Gustav more than the wild animals. Is there anything noteworthy about the pest control process? Anything. Oh, right. By the way, about the top floor. Tetra came into my peripheral vision, and I remembered. I almost forgot. The moment I mentioned the top floor, Tetra tensed up next to me. The room was burned and charred. Before I entered, this woman had gone in for some reason, and it was already burned when she was there. I couldn't afford to be charged for repairs. I needed to explain myself. Looking at Tetra, she swallowed hard and opened her mouth apologetically. After I entered the room, I found it already burned. Perhaps it was involved in a fire phenomenon in Nerd before. Fire elemental, huh? Right. Miss Tetra. While making sure the receptionist couldn't see, I stepped on Tetra's toes and asked. I admit the transition was a bit forced, but it couldn't be helped. Mr. Crow didn't start the fire. The receptionist took notes on the quest slip with a quill pen and confirmed. Right. There was quite a bit of damage, so the walls will need to be repaired. Are you sure? Miss Tetra. The receptionist, who was questioning Tetra, looked at her directly, as if to catch any lies. I increased the pressure on her toes. Yes. I was surprised to see it charred. Tetra said this with her head bowed, as if resigned. That was fine. For reference, why was Miss Tetra there? It's in the shallow part of the Nerg forest, after all. That's because she was attacked and fled to the fortress, right? I interrupted her before she could say more. Tetra nodded silently. I was surprised to see a monster when I arrived. What did you do with the monster? I defeated it. The body was too large to carry, so I entrusted it to the guild in 12th Street. They said they would auction it, so it should be traceable here. Understood. She seemed to accept it verbally, but her face suggested she wasn't entirely convinced. Her smile turned into a sly grin. However, she didn't pursue it further and put down her quill pen. Is that all about the damage? Yes, that's about it. There were broken windows and damaged walls, but I think that's within the scope of wear and tear. Understood. Then, this concludes the report. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you. Tetra and I bowed our heads and stepped back. As we took a step forward, a large wall appeared in front of us. Hey, bringing a girl, huh? Not bad for a kid. A tall, burly man with a bad reputation stood right in front of us, turning around. He must have just returned from a slaying mission. He had a large axe on his back, and his armor was stained with blood. The armor was one thing, but he should have wiped the axe. Sorry. After you. I hadn't noticed, but he must have been at the back of the line. I stepped aside to clear the way to the counter. However, he didn't move to the front of the counter. Do you need something? If so, he must have some business with me. When I looked up, he was staring at me with a smug grin. Every time I come to the guild, something happens. I just want to do my job normally. I sighed heavily in my heart. Hey, I heard a little, but you shouldn't be dressing up so fancy. I don't know what you're talking about. I replied to the man who was glaring at me. It's a monster. A runt like you, claiming to have slain a monster. Don't make me laugh. The man laughed loudly, and a few people around us chuckled as well. What about your gear? That's not the kind of clothes a fighter wears. You're just lying, and you shouldn't be bothering the adults' workplace. Indeed, my current outfit, without the robe, looked like that of a common townsfolk. I was wearing pants made of a tough fabric similar to denim and a cotton-colored shirt. Apart from the backpack and machete on my back, it wasn't suitable for going outside. I took off my coat, so it's not really outdoor gear. But, if I lied about slaying a monster, the guild would find out immediately, right? Even if I had said, I left the corpse behind, I had actually said, I entrusted it to the guild. There shouldn't be any reason to doubt me. But the man laughed again. So, you mean a small, flying squirrel-like monster? A kid could kill that, right? By that, he meant I could only kill something that small. Is this, by any chance, a challenge? A fight? No, that's not it. I just thought I'd give some educational guidance to a new kid while delivering my report. It seemed I had been picked on for no reason. Maybe I had done something to annoy him. I don't know what you're upset about, but let's move quickly. We're blocking the people behind us. Can you say that to a senior? The man, who seemed to be a senior, continued to glare at me without moving. Well, I had only become an explorer 2 days ago, so he was almost certainly a senior. But something felt off. I couldn't help but frown. What? What's that look on your face? And then, his words in response to my expression. That's when I realized it. The reason for the discomfort was that the points of criticism kept changing. Of course, all of them might have genuinely annoyed him. But I didn't think that was the case. He wasn't angry because I had done something wrong. He was looking for reasons to be angry. But why? I couldn't figure it out. Was he causing a scene to gain something? Hey, don't just stand there, kid. The man reached out and put his hand on my shoulder, then tried to shake me. Well, it was clear he was challenging me. And the physical contact. This was definitely an act of malice. I slowly placed my hand on his. Hey, stop it. Tetra called out to the man to stop. He laughed again. Ha ha, being protected by a girl. What a wimp, kid. I don't think I'm being protected. I snorted. Tetra, who had grabbed my hand, wasn't protecting me. She had called out to me, not to stop, but to be careful. Probably, she wasn't protecting me. Still talking back. A punk like you needs to be taught a lesson by me, Torn the. The man raised his free right hand and loudly proclaimed his name. His voice echoed through the building. But was he famous? I glanced at the receptionist, who shook her head slightly. He was probably unknown. I see. That's it. A smile unconsciously appeared on my face. The strange way he was picking on me, the increasing number of accusations, and the unnatural proclamation of his name. It all made sense. This farce was to make a name for himself. If he caused a scene, his name would spread, whether it was positive or negative. A bad reputation was better than no reputation. He wanted people to know his name. This bullying of a new kid was part of his efforts. A dry laugh escaped me. So, this was why I was being stopped. He thought I was safe to use. Hey, laughing again. That's quite a name. I tightened my grip on Torn's hand and forcibly pulled it off my shoulder. Ah! Torn let out a short cry. His arm was bent at an unnatural angle. It was a Cole's fracture. It's a bit ridiculous to be outmatched by a kid and still call yourself strong. I checked the badge on my collar. It still showed a young lizard without eyes. The woman earlier wasn't protecting me. She was worried about you. The guild hall fell silent. Attention was on me. I had made things worse, but this was a backlash. I felt uncomfortable. I decided to leave quickly. I looked at Tetra and started walking. But I was still annoyed. I wanted to leave one last insult. Thank you for the valuable educational guidance, Tornov. Damn you. As soon as I finished speaking, Torn stood up quickly. Ah, I should have kept my mouth shut. Torn reached for the large axe on his back with his remaining hand, but someone else's hand stopped him. I think it's better to stop. A slender man, who seemed to have been there all along, quietly pulled Torn's hand down. He had short, curly blonde hair tied back. Why you? Torn, recognizing the smiling face, shuddered and stopped. More importantly, you should go to the clinic quickly. It's serious if the injury leaves a disability. Torn seemed unable to respond, closing his mouth. He spat and shook off the hand, passing by me quickly. Remember this. He left with a look of anger and a parting shot. Wow, that was scary. The slender man, with a sly smile, acted playfully. As soon as Torn left, the guild hall returned to its usual bustling activity. The report counter was functioning normally again. It was as if nothing had happened. This must be a common occurrence. As I stared blankly at the scene, the slender man smiled and spoke to me. That was tough. But don't worry about it. He often causes similar scenes. Even though he causes similar scenes, no one stops him. The guild staff didn't seem to want to stop him. Earlier, the receptionist and other staff didn't move to intervene. Well, there are various reasons why it's overlooked. Are you leaving? Yes, I guess so. If you are, you should go quickly. You have to find a place for the girl to stay. Right, that's true. Indeed, it was better to find a place for Tetra quickly. There should still be some available if we started now. Well, I wasn't going to help that much. Thank you. At the parting, I was at a loss for words, not knowing the slender man's name. He smiled and responded. I'm Leighton Dorchwant. Just call me Leighton. See you next time, Crow and Hedron. He waved and walked back into the guild. As soon as we left the guild, Tetra spoke heavily. So, why did you make that report? Which report? When I entered the top floor of the fort, the fire was already lit. Ah, I see. She was talking about the report to the guild. The report where I had shifted the blame for the burned room to Nug, not Tetra. You didn't have to lie, did you? Well, I noticed it while waiting in line. I stopped and said, if I didn't, it would have felt like I was pushing Tetra out, wouldn't it? It wasn't just like pushing her out, it was exactly that. Huh. That's it. Yes, that's it. I said with a smile, and Tetra looked exasperated. You lied to the guild just for that. Well, to increase credibility, I didn't cancel Tetra's presence, but it seems they already knew. I just caused you trouble. I bowed my head slightly. Seeing this, Tetra smiled wryly. Actually, I should be the one to apologize. You saved me by bringing me quickly, and you saved my life. Furthermore, you even lied to the guild to protect me. I can't complain. Right. The conversation paused, and we both laughed. Let's call it a day. You had something important to do in this lane, right? Good luck. Yes. Take care. I don't think you will get hurt, but take care of yourself. We exchanged brief goodbyes and parted ways. If we met again, I hoped it would be somewhere without monsters or assassins. The city sank into darkness with the setting sun. Since you haven't gone to the grave, I can repair it, but to break it so soon. I'm sorry. I really am not used to using it. The day after the fox incident, I came to the blacksmith on 5th Street to get my machete fixed and buy a new robe. When I showed the machete to the shop owner and asked for repairs, he sighed in exasperation. Well, you're a magician, not a professional. It's understandable that you're not used to handling swords. But you should take better care of it. I have no excuse. After the repairs and sharpening were done, I looked at the returned blade and reflected on the shop owner's words. In fact, I had damaged the blade with just one swing. Even though the monster was strong, I should have reflected on my actions. Especially, breaking it after channeling my fighting spirit is not something that happens often. The second robe was sold to me happily. It seems that the current trend is to show off armor as much as possible, and actually, coats are not selling well. In the past, they used to supply the knights, and it was often the case that the stock would run out. However, with no monsters or battles these days, there is no particular need for a large quantity, and the stock is piling up because only a few explorers buy them occasionally. The shop owner was smiling about it. After leaving the shop, I thought about my plans for the day. That day, I only managed to repair my equipment and secure food. I thought it might be good to eat out soon, but I end up being satisfied with the fish and insects I'm used to. My seasonings are almost running out, so I'll think about it after that. A few days later, a man called out to me as I was heading to the guild. Hey, Crow. It's been a while since we last met. You're Leighton, right? Leighton was sitting on a barrel by the roadside, looking at the passers-by. When he noticed me, he swung his dangling feet and greeted me, then jumped up lightly like a cat. I'm glad you remembered. Thank you for the other day. When I bowed my head, Leighton stopped me with a gentle smile. I didn't do anything. But let's go to the guild together. I was just about to head there anyway. I don't mind, but were you waiting for me? It's hard to imagine that he predicted the time I would come out on a whim. Perhaps he had been waiting for a while. Yeah, I wanted to talk to you once. Leighton yawned and answered. I don't have much to say, but if you want to. That's great. Let's go then. And we started walking to the guild together.
ITV audiobook.
I knew about you, but I couldn't meet you because of Gustav. Finally, I got the chance to meet you. You know Gustav. Surprised, I checked Leighton's appearance, but I had no memory of seeing him in the slums. He's not a resident of the slums. Then, I often take jobs from Gustav. As an explorer. Yeah. Let me introduce myself again. I'm Leighton Dorch Want. I'm an explorer who grew up in the slums like you. I used to live on the support of the stone house, just like you. Nice to meet you. After a light cough, Leighton puffed out his chest and said so. Yes. Nice to meet you. Indeed. In that sense, he was a senior. So, if anything happens, don't hesitate to ask. I'm sure I can help. Thank you. If he really takes jobs from Gustav, his skills are probably reliable. If something happens, it might be good to ask for his help. But I'll trust him later. So, is it okay if Hedron gets hurt? After walking for a while, Leighton suddenly said something strange. What do you mean? For a moment, I thought he was suggesting an attack on Tro. But following Leighton's gaze, I quickly understood that it wasn't the case. A street running across the one we were walking on. In the distance, I saw the back of a red-haired girl. And a man's figure descending from above her head. Danger! I couldn't help but shout. But Tro reacted before she heard my words. She jumped to the side and swung her arm. A wave of flame attacked the man's body. The man's body was engulfed in flames, but it was only for a moment. He landed and jumped at Tro as if nothing had happened. The flames were easily left behind by his movement. The man's short sword was thrust at Tro. Just as the sword was about to reach her face, Tro, without moving a muscle, cut through the air with a burning hair. The burning hair struck the man's torso. The man's body collapsed. His torso was burned and blackened, now split in two. It was certainly an instant death. Phew. Just another grunt. Wait. Did someone say something just now? I heard Tro mutter. Hearing her voice, Leighton and I looked at each other and shrugged, smiling. She's pretty strong, isn't she? She's a midge, so it's to be expected, but she's completely different from the Tro in the forest. I'm honestly surprised. She's strong. So, let's get to the main topic. The main topic. While watching Tro from a distance, Leighton said something strange again. Was there some kind of setup for walking this far? Yeah. I want to hear about her situation with you. Is that okay? Is there something that concerns you? She's been making quite a stir lately. I want to know the details. If you want to, go ahead, but I don't think I need to be there. I don't need to be there. If you want to know, just ask her directly. But Leighton said this was the main topic. If so, he was waiting for me on the street. Is there a reason he needs to bring me along? Is it okay to refuse? I can go alone, but as a supporter of Gustav, it's better to have more people, right? Is this related to Gustav? Just because you're related to Gustav? Is that it? Leighton didn't answer. But he stood quietly, waiting for my answer. I still don't understand his true intentions, but maybe it's okay to accept the invitation. All right. I'll come with you. He. Since we have your agreement, let's go and ask her right away. Leighton turned to Tro. I followed his gaze and saw Tro dragging the corpse into an alley. In the alley, Tro squatted next to the corpse. She placed her hand on it and chanted something, and the man's body was enveloped in a clean blue flame. I couldn't help but call out from behind. You're burning the corpse. What the heck, you guys? This isn't a funeral. The corpse turned to ash from the edges and eventually crumbled and scattered. If it were to be buried, some form of remains should be left, but this is erasing everything, including possessions. So, this is covering up. But there are witnesses, right? No, this assassin is thoughtful. There are no witnesses other than us. So, if we erase the evidence of his presence here, the incident won't come to light. Right, this assassin is careful not to leave evidence of his work, so the evidence can be erased by his own setup. Crow, Leighton. What are you doing here? I see. But if someone is used as a sacrificial pawn to deliberately create witnesses, Tra could be arrested. In that case, the motive and details of the incident would have to be revealed. Since Tra has been causing a stir recently, it would be a problem if it became a topic. Or, the guards could be bribed to silence them immediately after the arrest. It seems like Heyman and his ilk could be easily bribed. But the city operates according to the law, so that might be difficult. The guards don't have the authority to punish. If the guards suppress the information, it won't reach the higher-ups, right? Hey, wait a minute. Considering Tra's counterattack, it might be difficult to suppress the incident without bringing it to light, given the damage of a large-scale arrest. Hey! Tra shouted loudly. Oops. I was too engrossed in the conversation with Leighton. Sorry. I was ignoring you. I was a bit intentional, but Crow, you were really into it. Leighton was laughing happily. Where were you watching from? From when you were attacked by the person who turned to ash. Oh, that voice was you. Yes. I didn't really help. A minor enemy like that can be easily dealt with. The post-battle comment wasn't a lie. Still, you killed him easily. I'm just brushing off the sparks that fall on me. I can't afford to be killed. Her eyes, fixed on Leighton, were filled with determination. No interference. If anyone interferes, she won't show mercy to us either. She took a half step back and looked at Leighton and me. Don't get the wrong idea. I'm not blaming you. But, I want to know why you can't afford to be killed. Depending on the story, maybe Leighton and I can help. Speaking as Gustav's representative, he added, but only I could hear it. Tra's atmosphere softened at Leighton's words. All right. I'll talk to you. He, understood. Let's go to the guild together. We can talk there. The hand extended to her, the words spoken to her. They didn't seem to have any malice. But for some reason, those words sounded like the whisper of a demon to me. A bit complicated, a Leighton explanation session. We were sitting in a corner of the guild, in a partitioned rest area. It seems that if we applied, we could rent a small private room, but Tetrat refused, saying it wasn't a conversation that required discretion. Where should I start? Right. How about we start with why you ran away from Clarizen? When Leighton said this, Tetrat fell silent and began to think, looking down. Eventually, it seemed her thoughts were organized. She slowly began to speak. I left Clarizen to expose that town. Is it doing something wrong? Leighton laughed as if amused. Do you mean a monster tamer? You know what that is, right? A magic user who controls monsters, right? Like in the hero's story. Indeed, one of the hero's party members was a monster tamer who rescued a lost companion and returned them to the hero. No, monster tamers do exist. There are 2 in Essen, or 3 if you count the spirit users. Yes. And now, there's one in that town. Home. I thought they were all in the capital or nearby. Is it unknown? My childhood friend. Tetrat whispered with a heavy heart. Her clenched fists had turned white. There's a monster hunting request from Clarizen. I know. Just wait a moment. Leighton stood up and headed to the bulletin board where the hunting requests were posted. He tore off one of the papers and returned, waving it in the air. The 3 of us peered at the paper on the table. Is this it? The extermination of the trenchworm that appears in the forest near Clarison. The reward is. Leighton was about to read the amount when he was surprised. He couldn't help but exclaim loudly. 5 copper coins. The trenchworm, a large snake-like monster that lives in the forest, is like a dragon without wings or hands. It can bite through rock and move underground, suddenly emerging to attack its prey. While not as powerful as a dragon, it is still a troublesome monster for ordinary people. To hunt it for 5 copper coins is clearly too cheap. It would be much safer and more profitable to gather herbs instead. That's clearly an unfair profit. Nodding, Tetrat continued. The monster tamer controlling this trenchworm is my childhood friend. Is your childhood friend threatening the town? After saying this, he realized it was wrong. Tetrat was not trying to expose the monster tamer but the town. As if to confirm this, Tetrat shook her head. No. That child doesn't want this. It's not that child's will. Not that child's will. Ah, I see. So, the town. Leighton whispered quietly and nodded. Then, the next words out of his mouth were unexpected. I understand. It's a more boring story than I thought. Huh. At these words, Tetrat froze and then weakly asked. The solution is simple. In addition to dealing with that child and the monster, Miss Hedron can post a hunting request with a fair price. That will solve the problem. Leighton said this in one breath and then turned to me. Well, what about you, Crow? I'm going to lend a hand. Wait, I don't understand what you're talking about. Interrupting Leighton, who was about to cut off the conversation, I couldn't help but speak up. I still didn't understand. Yet, Leighton seemed to have grasped the situation and proposed a solution. What exactly did he understand from our conversation? Oh, right. I forgot, this is a topic far removed from you. Although, it's also distant for most explorers. Leighton sighed and continued. Right. I'll explain this part instead of Gustav. Is that okay? Sure, that's fine. I glanced at Tetrat, who was trembling, not in anger but in frustration. Miss Tetrat. Leighton smiled at Tetrat with a kind expression. Then, he repeated what he had said before. Right. If you post the request and deal with your childhood friend. What do you mean by that? Tetrat asked quietly, as if trying to suppress her anger. Leighton tilted his head, as if not understanding, and asked in return. Under the pretext of a monster, the town is making an unfair profit, or rather, the residents are enriching themselves. That's what it is, right? Yes, but... Then it's a simple matter. If the monster is gone, or more precisely, if the means to safely use the monster are taken away, it can't continue. Removing your childhood friend and the monster from the town, and getting a third party to confirm safety, will solve the problem. Tetrat swallowed hard. So, that's the solution. Any more questions? I understand what you're saying, but... Tetrat still seemed to want to argue but couldn't find the words. Leighton, no longer interested in Tetrat's silence, began to educate me. Do you know about the country's tax system? No, I'm not well informed. Suddenly talking about taxes. There must be a connection, but I still couldn't see it. Come to think of it, do I even pay taxes? Well, it's understandable. It's not something residents of the slums or frontier villages are involved with. To put it simply, residents of this country pay taxes to the city they live in and to the country. Whether you pay through the guild, like us, or declare it yourself varies from person to person. My share is handled by the guild, right? Surprisingly, I was also a taxpayer. That's one of the guild's roles. Every time you complete a request or sell materials, a portion is deducted. But that's not important now. What's important is the portion the city pays to the country. Frontier villages, for example. Yes, that's important. The answer is no. Frontier villages are not required to pay taxes to the country by law. Once a village with a certain number of residents in the Holy Territory has been established for 20 years, it is promoted to a city and then begins to pay. Until then, there's no need to pay. So, it seems better not to be promoted. Is there any benefit to being promoted, even if it means giving up preferential treatment? Once promoted, you gain the right to request night deployments and have guards stationed. All paid for by the country. There are other benefits, like having a guild branch established. Oh. So, the country will protect you. Once officially recognized as part of the country, you receive protection from the country. Clarizen has been receiving these benefits for several years now. Of course, the benefits are not just that, Leighton added. So, what does this have to do with her childhood friend, the monster tamer? There's also a tax exemption system in this tax system. A tax exemption system. Just the words suggest that there are conditions under which you don't have to pay taxes. Does this have something to do with the monster tamer? No, earlier, he said the pretext of a monster. Could it be? If there's a monster nearby, you don't have to pay taxes. Leighton clapped his hands and smiled. Correct. More precisely, if there's a troublesome monster living in the nearby forest that requires defense, or in special conditions like wartime, you can be exempt from taxes. Now, do you understand the situation in Clarizen? Indeed. Finally, I grasped the situation. Yes. I'm sorry for being slow. That's fine. You and I have different levels of prior information. It's understandable that you couldn't figure it out. Smiling, Leighton reassured me, and he still looked like a good person. According to Leighton's explanation, which made the situation more complex, in simple terms, a large-scale tax evasion was taking place in Clarizen. Tetrad's childhood friend was making the monster appear near the town, and Clarizen reported it to Islan. Using this as a pretext, they were evading taxes. The taxes that should have been paid were being embezzled by someone in the town, or a significant number of people, based on the conversation. Since Tetrad had come to this town to expose it, it meant that it couldn't be resolved internally in Clarizen. It must be a serious situation where self-purification was no longer working. However, if that's the case, why not seek help from the country? Then, there should be tax collectors. Why not report the situation to them? I suggested, but Leighton dismissed it with a teacher's smile. There are tax collectors, but... Miss Hedron, haven't you already been there? Yes. The day after I arrived in Island. Tetrat, who had been silent, whispered regretfully. It's a large sum, but to the big city, it's just a small amount of tax from a small town. It can be crushed with a little effort. The tax collectors are using it for their own profit. Being bribed. Yes, just a small amount that we overlook. Leighton put his hand to his chin and muttered with a bored expression. Not just the tax collectors. The Exploration Guild and the guards are also involved in the cover-up. Clarizen is built on top of the small crimes they each commit. Leighton picked up the hunting request paper on the table and waved it again. Then, how do we solve it? I was about to ask when I realized. Leighton had been clearly indicating the solution all along. That's why I said. This crime is built on top of small, easily blown away crimes. If we can provide solid proof that the monster is gone, that will be enough. That's why it's boring. His face, saying this, looked like the face of a bad person, similar to Mr. Gustav's. So, Miss Hedron, please post the hunting request for the trenchworm in the forest today, or even now. I'll go and kill it tomorrow. Ha. Ha. My and Tetrad's voices were in unison. We were stunned by the surprise. Oh, right, what about you, Crow? I think I can handle it alone, so you don't have to come. Wait, what? Are you taking that job? I interrupted and asked. Based on the previous flow, I thought Leighton would give Tetrat advice and then leave it to her, but it seems that's not the case. When did I say I wouldn't take it? You didn't say that. Indeed, he never said he wouldn't help. Leighton narrowed his eyes and said to me as if advising. It's impossible for a stonecutter to not act against such small villains. It's just a matter of acting immediately or later. I see. That's what you mean. As a stonecutter, Leighton will act. To punish the boring villains. Like a hero of justice. If that's the case, I, who was taken in by Mr. Gustav, must also act here. I'll go too. I can do something. I'll help Mr. Gustav, even if it's just a little. Wait. Just as we were about to get up and start preparing, Tra stopped us. Don't decide things on your own. Huh. Didn't you come here to seek help from this Elaine? Leighton raised an eyebrow in surprise. Or is there something else? Is there something you don't like? What do you plan to do with my childhood friend? Helena. Her voice tinged with anger. Hearing it, I realized something. Actually, why didn't I notice it before? Leighton had just said, we'll take care of the monster tamer and the monster. We'll take care of it. If we don't remove it from Clarice, the monsters will keep appearing. Leighton said this casually, without any remorse, as if he were just making small talk, with a light and airy tone. Then, Tra's magic flared up, and her red hair burst into flames. The air shimmered with a blinding light. This is bad. Even though no one is around at this time, this will cause a commotion if it continues. Then I won't ask for your help. I'll manage on my own. You couldn't, could you? However, the flames in her hair were quickly extinguished by Leighton. With a casual flick of his hand, a wave of white light spread out. After the wave of fighting spirit passed, her flaming hair returned to its original red. The cold air returned as if nothing had happened. Besides, you shouldn't use large-scale magic here. It can't be covered up easily. I was shocked and instantly understood. A glimpse of Leighton's overwhelming power. The density of the fighting spirit that could extinguish the heat of her flaming hair, which surpassed the fireball I had once cast at a demon, with just a flick of his wrist. You must have protested against the monster tamer. Helena, right. But you couldn't persuade her, could you? That's right. I couldn't stop her. But if you had persuaded her and stopped her, this tax evasion case wouldn't have happened in the first place. Is that wrong? That's not it, but... Tra's voice gradually grew smaller, overwhelmed by the reality being piled upon her, and she hung her head in defeat. Still, there must be a way to help her without killing her. Then let's hear it. If there's a way to save her without her dying, that would be fine too. It would be a waste to lose such a talented mage. Maybe if I try to persuade her again. Will that work? From what I've heard, you two are quite close. Yet, you've already given up and are relying on outsiders. Don't you think it's futile? Her counter-argument was cut off, and Tra finally looked down and fell silent, unable to withstand the pressure. It's no wonder. After a journey where she might have been killed, she finally reached the city, only to be ignored by the authorities and told by the person who offered help that her friend would be killed. The mental strain is evident. To be honest, I can't do anything. Without an alternative plan or any basis for opposition, it's just noise. I can't come up with a brilliant solution to the tax evasion case. But what came to mind was a scene from an old pioneer village I had seen. The adults were pretending to work hard for temporary pleasure, turning a blind eye to the real problem of animal attacks. Ki, who refused to conform to this pressure, called out for everyone to rise up. The adults laughed at him, calling it a waste of time. I remember feeling a strong aversion to this. Of course, her situation is different. But like Key, she stood up. She made a dangerous journey to the city and desperately appealed to the authorities. She stood up. She didn't collude with the wrongdoers or turn a blind eye. She stood up to improve the situation. Finally, I realized. By listening to her story, I have become a part of this. I need to act based on my own judgment, not as a stonemason, but as myself. I furrowed my brow in thought. I won't say that Leighton's plan is wrong. But if I don't stand by her here, I'll be no different from the adults who laughed at Key. Think. Find a way to reach a satisfactory conclusion for her. I will continue to be on her side regarding Clarice. I decided this. Coraz, do you have any ideas? Leighton suddenly turned to me, who was still pondering. I do have an idea, but it's not yet ready to be put into words. I hope you can save Helena's life. You say that too. Leighton now sounded amused. Then what do you suggest? I've already come up with a plan to solve the case. In that plan, her death is necessary. I don't have an alternative, yet. Are you giving up already? Has Gustav's wisdom not been passed down to you? My words of resignation. Hearing them, Leighton's tone dropped, and he let out a small sigh. His reaction was strange. It was as if he was disappointed that I had given up. As if he had been expecting my counter-argument. Maybe. Then there is still hope. I slowly chose my words and spoke. I'm not giving up. It's too early to give up. Leighton's lips curled up slightly at my words. This reaction. Indeed. What do you mean? You just said you don't have an alternative. That's right. I don't have one yet. But there's still time. Until you reach Clarice, you can't do anything to Helena. True. No matter how powerful I am, I can't kill someone in Clarice from here. But the same goes for you. You can't protect her from a distance either. Then we'll come up with a plan by then. Leighton listened to me without interrupting. He was interested. There's no doubt about it. Leighton was waiting for my counter-argument. I continued with confidence. By the time we reach Clarice, I'll come up with a reason to persuade you. Together with Tra's eyes widened. Leighton smiled at my words. Good. That's a good answer. Leighton interlocked his fingers and cracked them, then continued with a smile. All right. The deadline is tomorrow night, when we reach Clarice. Think hard. Time runs faster than shadows. I'll definitely think of something. This is probably the better answer Leighton expected. Whether to conform to Leighton's opinion or to oppose it. And if opposing, whether to come up with an alternative. That's what he was looking for. And if I had opposed without a plan, he would have shown disappointment. Buying time because I don't have an alternative. That's all I can do now. But I'll think of something by tomorrow. I closed my eyes, then opened them again, and nodded. I will think of something. I've decided. See you tomorrow. We'll meet at the eastern gate when the 8 bells ring. Modest travel attire is fine. I'll have a carriage ready for Hedron. Leighton left with these words. A distant whistling could be heard. Tra and I were left standing there. I turned my gaze from the direction Leighton had gone and looked at Tra. She noticed and quickly averted her eyes. All right, Tra, please take care of the request. Okay. She gave a vague response and trudged towards the counter. I need to clear my head. I slumped into a chair and held my head. Tetra's request was accepted without any issues. With this, Leighton would accept the request posted directly tomorrow morning and set off for Clarisent. Given that Leighton hadn't mentioned anything about the request application, it seemed there was no interference around here. Perhaps the Clarisent branch didn't bother to confirm every single request. Turning my gaze back to Tetra, who had returned, We both let out a sigh. Well, let's think about how to solve the tax evasion case. Right. Even so, nothing came to mind at the moment. By the way, do you have any ideas, Tetra? Unfortunately, I've already tried everything I could think of. Reporting to the tax collectors, exposing the false reports of the guards and the Magic Guild, and requesting the withdrawal of the Exploration Guild's request. That's about all I could come up with. She muttered regretfully, but none of it seemed to have worked. Everywhere was blocked by bribes. I see. Money is powerful. What should we do? Normally, appealing to the law enforcement organization, as Tetra did, would be effective. However, this time it's difficult because the law enforcement organization is complicit in the crime. Then, perhaps we could buy them off with money. No, that won't work. We don't know how much it would cost. Even if we combined the money from selling the full seal and what we have on hand, it wouldn't be enough. Besides, even if we had the money, we wouldn't have the connections. Someone like Mr. Gustav. Right, Mr. Gustav might have some clever ideas. No, that won't work. Leighton is associated with the stone house. If Mr. Gustav inherited Leighton's way of thinking, he would likely reach the same conclusion. If it were efficient, Mr. Gustav wouldn't hesitate, even for someone important. Just like how he easily abandoned Rico. In the end, we need to come up with a new plan ourselves. We need to do it ourselves. Let's organize the problem. Why does Helena need to be eliminated? It's because she is being used as a reason for tax evasion. So, by eliminating her, we remove that reason. This would make it impossible to use that method for a while, and if we kill Helena, it would be impossible forever. Until a new reason for tax evasion is created, they would have to pay taxes honestly. Oh, that's it. Did you think of something? Tetra's face lit up as if she had jumped. A glimmer of hope appeared on her previously dejected face. No, I haven't thought about what happens after that. After, what do you mean? There are other ways to evade taxes, right? Indeed, there's a flaw in Leighton's plan. Even if we solve this issue for now, tax evasion will happen again. It will definitely happen. No matter how much they benefit from it, once people taste the good life, they can't forget it. That's just human nature. So, they will definitely do it again. They might not be able to use monsters anymore, but they will find new ways, change their methods, and do it again. So, even if we kill Helena this time, things will revert to the way they were. It's not a fundamental solution. That's true. But, yes, this is just a counterpoint to Leighton's plan. He would probably say, so what? Tetra called Leighton that guy with a resentful tone. I can understand her feelings. Yes. I can't answer how to solve it, though. Killing Helena would solve the problem for a while, but Leighton's approach is more practical, even if it's only temporary. Tilting my head back, the backrest of the chair, covered in fabric, fit perfectly behind my neck. Looking up at the ceiling, I arched my back. The sound of my shoulder blades cracking was satisfying. Maybe we should kill the trenchworm and forcibly bring Helena here. Like kidnapping and confining Helena to prevent her from returning to the city. Kidnapping and confining. Well, yes. But wouldn't that be enough without killing her? True, we could do that if we can get her away from the city. Something feels off. Leighton also said, it's better if she doesn't die. There must be a reason why kidnapping isn't enough. By the way, he said, it's not her will. What does that mean? If she's doing it unwillingly, it should be easy to persuade her. Tetra also said, we should bring her here forcibly. So, Helena must be unwilling to leave the city. And if persuasion has failed, Helena must be actively cooperating, not just passively. That's... I don't understand. You don't understand. She used to be afraid of touching monsters. She only used small creatures like flying squirrels or animals. She probably dislikes reptiles and insects. But now she uses trenchworms. Maybe she got over her fear of touching them. Actually, it's more common for people to become afraid of touching things they used to touch as children. Will I become afraid of insects someday? It's hard to imagine. No, that's not it. The last time I saw her, she was still afraid of touching trenchworms. There must be a reason she's using them, then. Tetra nodded. But she wouldn't tell me. She looked like she was about to cry and refused to speak. Tetra was probably remembering that. She looked like she was about to cry. If it's not her will, it must be someone else's. And she's been silenced. So, the most likely scenario is she's doing it unwillingly but won't stop or explain why. She's being threatened. Probably. She's being threatened by the important people in the city. That's the most likely scenario. Tetra has had opportunities to contact her, so she must have some freedom. Therefore, it's not her life that's being threatened, but something important to her. Her property, her family, or something else. We don't know what it is. If that's the case, even kidnapping and confining her won't solve the problem. To resolve the threat, we need to identify the perpetrator and recover whatever is being held hostage. If she's being threatened with a secret, we might need to silence the perpetrator, or even kill them. Until we resolve that threat, Helena will continue to do it. This means we need to deal with the influential people in the city. However, we lack a just cause. On the surface, there's no tax evasion case. Moreover, since we can't rely on the law enforcement organization, which has been bribed, it's difficult to legally punish the influential people. We could use illegal means, like assassination, but that would make the law enforcement organization our enemy. However, illegal means might be effective for Helena. In another city, where even Leighton didn't know about the magic user Helena, this could work. Helena's existence is evidence of tax evasion. Since the influential people in Clarisent have been hiding Helena to avoid contradictions, they would likely cover up her death. And if they adopt new tax evasion methods, we can find the flaws and interfere again. Until we can solve it once and for all. Leighton's guild card was adult. If the guild were to condemn Leighton, who is relatively important, for Helena's death, it could expose the tax evasion. If that happens, we might be able to reach a fundamental solution. This is bad. This is really bad. The more I think about it, the more effective Helena's death seems. Tetra's expression also worsened as she reached the same conclusion. The discussion continued, but we didn't come up with any new ideas. And the morning of the agreed day arrived. The 7 bells rang. Without missing a beat, I woke up, jumped out of bed, and stretched. I could hear the sound of my muscles relaxing. Rubbing my sleepy eyes, I recalled yesterday's discussion. In the end, we didn't come up with any plans. We couldn't think of a way to help Helena, and to return to the inn with a heavy heart. Well, what should I do? The only option left to help Helena is to stop Leighton, but if I do that, Tra's plea will be in vain. I want to fulfill the wish of the girl who risked her life to escape the city. Wait. Her wish. What is her goal? To correct the city that thrives on tax evasion. Or to mete out divine punishment to those who profit from it. No, that's not it. Probably not. She must want to save Helena. That's why she's trying to stop the city's evil deeds. I think I might have an idea, but my head isn't clear after just waking up. I'll drink some cold water and take a breather. Just as I finished gulping down the chilled water, the door knocker rang. It's rare, or rather, it's the first time. As I put my hand on the doorknob, I realized something. Right now, it wouldn't be strange if someone was targeting me. I remember that several assassins came to Tra's place. I wouldn't be surprised if they came to mine too. I quietly extended my magic to investigate. There stood a tall, muscular man in a green overcoat, standing without a single flaw. I let out a sigh of relief. I might have been overcautious. There stood Nixky. Long time no see. You look well, that's good to hear. Nixky always speaks in a matter-of-fact tone, but what's his business today? I can't offer you any hospitality, but please come in. No, this is fine. He bluntly turned down my offer and stared at me intently. Come on, don't be like that. It's a message from Gustav. A message from Gustav. The moment I heard those words, I felt a chill run down my spine. Nixky, as if savoring the moment, slowly opened his mouth. Stay out of Leighton's affairs. Withdraw from this matter. That's all. That's all. That's it. He went through the trouble of sending Nixky just to say that. That's all. The words speak for themselves, so no explanation is needed. I see, but why? Why such a thing? Nixky cleared his throat and slowly blinked. This is my personal opinion. Yes. He's poison. A poison that can't heal the body. A poison used only to kill people and diseases. Not a medicine you should use. That's quite abstract, but are you saying it won't benefit me? Nixky nodded. Gustav must have been taking care of you to prevent you from being influenced by the Stonehouse ideology. He doesn't want you to be affected by Leighton. Oh, that's why. Leighton had said. I couldn't meet Gustav because of him. He didn't see Leighton in the slums, probably because Gustav intentionally kept them apart. Is that why I've never seen him before? You've been looking out for me. Yes. I agree. Don't trust him. If you get involved, don't let your guard down. His words and actions always have another purpose. That's quite harsh, but I started feeling a bit sorry for him. To me, he's just a gentle young man with a different way of thinking. There's no helping it. He's already left Gustav and is acting on his own. To the Stonehouse, he's an evil to be destroyed. Huh. I thought Leighton was acting on Gustav's orders. Now, they just happen to have the same interests. He's only tolerated because he's strong and has inherited the Stonehouse ideology. What does that mean? Did I just assume Leighton was Gustav's subordinate? No, Leighton is indeed. Oh. I couldn't help but exclaim. Does that mean he's just a bit away from Gustav right now? What's wrong? It's nothing. I was just deceived, or maybe not deceived. Anyway, I just realized a misunderstanding on my part, so it's fine. I pressed my fingers to my temples and groaned. Leighton isn't part of the Stonehouse. While he may have inherited the ideology, if he's been distanced from Gustav and is being viewed as an enemy, it's possible that our strategy is different. In that case, consulting Gustav might have been effective. There might have been another way to deal with Leighton. What should I do? Time is running out. The 8 bells will ring soon. I don't have time to go to the Stonehouse for a consultation. It's too late to regret. I need to think about what to do next. I clenched my fist and made a decision. Can you please relay a response to Gustav? I don't have a plan B yet, but even if I can't consult Gustav, I'm determined. I will relay it. I won't withdraw from this matter. I appreciate your concern, but after hearing this, I can't remain uninvolved. Nixky nodded and gestured for me to continue. So, if possible, I'd like your help. I'll pay whatever I can for the reward. When I finished speaking, Nixky's lips curved into a smile that was hard to read. I will relay it, but the second part will be refused. I see. Nixky, who has known Gustav longer than I have, is probably right. This Stonehouse business isn't something that can be swayed by a reward. With a slight frown, Nixky continued. Then, I'll relay the full message from Gustav. What? The full message. He said it was all before. If you don't withdraw from this matter, he said to tell you this. Ah, I see. He must have anticipated my response. That old man is not to be underestimated. How far can he see? Maybe he even has a blueprint for the outcome of this situation. It's scary to think that he might be right. Try to use the main road to get to Clarice as much as possible. That's all. This time, that's really the end. That's quite short, and there's no explanation. He's just specifying a route. What does it mean? Buying time. Giving me more time to think. No, that would be pointless. That old man wouldn't say something meaningless. There must be a reason. Okay, I understand. I'll follow his instructions. That should help improve the situation. Hopefully. Nixky raised an eyebrow at my face. You don't look convinced. Of course not. Just a cryptic message. I want a clear answer. Don't disappoint Gustav. If he's making you think, it's because he wants you to grow. I'm in a tight spot, and I want the answer. At that, Nixky's usually unchanging face softened. Then, I'll give you some advice. That's rare. Nixky ignored my comment and spoke slowly. You need to rely on others more. You're strong, like Leighton. So, don't become someone who can't rely on others, like Leighton. Is that advice related to this case? Maybe. You should think about it yourself. He then returned to his serious expression and closed his mouth. See you later. With that, he turned and disappeared without waiting for my response. His technique of vanishing like a mist, cutting off his presence, could probably work in the forest too. Alone at the door where Nixky had disappeared, I muttered to myself. Follow the main road, huh? Let's do it. I need to hurry to the meeting place. It's okay. These are the words of two people I trust. Everything will work out. I can save Helena without killing her, fulfill Tra's resolve, and achieve a happy ending. Such courage welled up in my chest. Hey. It's a bit early, but since everyone's here, shall we go? When I arrived at the meeting place, Leighton and Tra were already there. Tra looked sleep-deprived, rubbing her bloodshot eyes. She must have been thinking a lot at the inn. If Tra is okay with it, I'm fine. Let's go. She didn't seem fully awake, blinking more than usual and responding slowly. But she scratched the back of her head and answered, then slowly mounted the beast. The beast was a white horse with horns and tiger-like legs, Hack, who had helped me when I first came to Eline. Is this Hack, Leighton's? No way. I borrowed it from a rental stable. Such a profession exists. So, if Hack is the only one, that means you and I will. Of course, we'll walk. Leighton said it so casually. It's not because I'm a woman or anything. We can run faster anyway. He. You know that. Shall we go? Leighton started walking, turning his back to the city. I called out to him, determined to use Gustav's advice. I have a request. What is it? You were planning to run through the forest, right? Can we follow the main road as much as possible? Why is that? Leighton's tone dropped, as if he was expecting something. But I shouldn't mention Gustav's name here. I shouldn't raise his suspicions. I thought hard and finally came up with an answer. Look at Tra. I pointed to Tra, who was swaying on Hack, fighting off sleep. She might fall off on a rough road. I see. Fine, let's do that. Leighton smiled slyly and accepted my suggestion. So, we'll be following the main road. What should I do now? This is going to be tough. I sighed quietly, trying to maintain my composure. We sprint down the road that stretches through the forest. Since we are matching the pace of Hack, on whom Tra is riding, we have some leeway, but we are still moving at a considerable speed. The flow of the trees is fast. The journey is also proceeding according to plan. Occasionally, we pass through the mountains, but this is to avoid towns and villages. Generally, we follow the road. After passing through 2 villages, Leighton suddenly began to speak. The wind noise is a hindrance, but if we continue to enhance our hearing, Leighton and I can communicate. So, do you understand the advantages of traveling on the road? Advantages, you say? Why would such a topic come up suddenly? The surroundings are a dense forest as far as the eye can see, and the compacted earth is hard and solid. In this monotonous scenery, is it just a conversation to pass the time? Compared to what? Well, compared to traveling through the mountains where there is nothing, right? Leighton, grinning, looks ahead without turning to me. I am particularly bothered by the way he keeps his hand on the hilt of his sword, as if ready to draw it. First, it's easier to walk, which is an advantage. Occasionally, tree roots protrude, but generally, there are no obstacles to trip over, and the road is smooth and even. You're not wrong to use that as an excuse to run here. But that's not all. Are there other reasons? Do you remember the situation Tra is in now? Is it about being a traitor to the city? As a traitor to Clarice, she visited Elaine and is now on her way back to Clarice. Many assassins have been sent after her, which is to be expected for a traitor. Yes, she is in a position where she is being targeted. Suddenly, Leighton kicked up a small stone from the ground and kicked it again, sending it into the bushes ahead. The small bush is about 100 meters ahead. What are you? Look. The time is up for that question. Just as I was about to ask about Leighton's intention, he pointed ahead with his chin. A man in leather armor, holding his arm, rolled out from the bushes. His arm seems to be broken as he staggered out. Could it have been the stone just now? Despite the considerable distance, we, moving at high speed, quickly reached the man. Hey, what do? We keep going straight. Before Tra's anxious cry could finish, Leighton gave Hack an order. Hack, being so intelligent, responded with a single cry and seemed to put even more effort into her stride. As we crossed paths with the man, I turned back to see him collapse and a head roll away from his body. Question marks flew over my head. Leighton chuckled at the sight. Was that one targeting Tra? Yes. It seems Gustav didn't tell you everything about traveling on the road. Is it something like, it's easier to deal with assassins? Leighton's hand is no longer on the hilt of his sword. Right, that's one of the advantages. Compared to the mountains, the road, which has been developed by humans, has limited places to hide. If you observe, you can predict an attack to some extent. Of course, our passage is also easier to predict. You make it sound so easy. With magic, I could probably do it too, but discovering an enemy hidden in a bush 100 meters away is no small feat. If I were to rely solely on my senses, I couldn't confidently say I could do it. However, Leighton said something more significant. When did you realize it was advice from Gustav? Since I predicted he would interfere. But so far, the only action of yours that I suspect is that one. So, it must be that one. I see. I am simply impressed by the insight that he could deduce so much from just suggesting a route change. Indeed, this man cannot be underestimated. Overprotection has its limits. We have no relation with the stone people now, yet he gives us advice. Is that so? I want answers more than advice. I said this, as I did to Nixky, with a sense of urgency. He. Well, try to figure out the meaning. I couldn't hide that the suggestion to change the route came from Gustav. However, it doesn't seem to be a big problem. Leighton has already factored in Gustav's interference. So, Gustav must have also factored in that Leighton would notice. In other words, everything is in the palm of Gustav and Leighton. Thinking about this, a slight unease stirred in my chest. But, it also means there is a chance. It's hard to believe Gustav would have us travel on the road just for the sake of dealing with attacks. So, the situation Leighton noticed could be a message from Gustav. Yes. I think it was just a warning to make me aware. More importantly, how you, who received the instruction, feel about it is crucial, isn't it? As if reading my thoughts, Leighton gives me advice. Just how far ahead does this man see? More importantly, we are almost halfway through the journey. Have you come to a conclusion? Time is running out. Come on. I'm not done yet. I can't help but raise my voice. On hack, also seems surprised by my voice and looks at me. When she understands the meaning, she looks at me again, pleadingly. I'm at a loss when she looks at me with teary eyes. After yesterday's discussion and a night of thinking, no significant ideas have come to mind. We both feel like we've exhausted all possibilities. There is still time. But Tra seems to have given up. Her eyes have lost their light, and she hangs her head in silence. Can't we just pay a reward and ask for help to rescue Helena? The words slip out. It was one of the early ideas that I immediately dismissed as impossible. Bribing Leighton with gold coins. Leighton's mission is to slay monsters, and monster handlers are not included. Killing Helena is a personal matter for Leighton. I thought it wouldn't work, but I should try anything. I expected him to ignore it with a bored look, but surprisingly, Leighton laughed with delight. He. Trying to bribe me with a reward. Well, I know it's impossible. As I turned my face away, Leighton, with a laugh, spoke in a conciliatory tone. No, keep going. The direction is not wrong. Bribing Leighton isn't wrong. Could he be bribed with the right amount? No, that seems too simple. Just out of curiosity, how much would it take to change your mind? It's impossible. My question was dismissed as a matter of course. Then, what does he mean? The direction is not wrong. Not a bribe, but something else. Well, since you got advice from Gustav, let me give you one too. Really, I wish he would stop giving fragmented instructions. It's the truth. Don't say that. If you don't keep thinking, you won't grow. That's true, but I wish you would choose the right time and place. I want to hear your guidance later, in a more relaxed setting. I thought this as I pulled a tree root that caught my foot. Anyway, give up on that. What is your, or rather, Hedron's goal? Correcting tax evasion. I say it out loud, then negate it in my head. That's not it. Her goal was probably decided from the beginning. Rather, rescuing Helena. You understand well. Then, what is Helena's likely future? To be killed by you. As I say this, I glare at Leighton with as much anger as I can muster. Leighton smiles, brushing it off like a willow. If you understand that much, the rest is just gathering the materials. And a shift in thinking is also necessary. Materials. Gathering them means I don't have them yet. At least, that's what Leighton thinks. And it's probably something I can obtain now. But it's not something like fruit or materials. I think. In other words, there is some information I lack. Or information I haven't considered. From there, I can derive a solution. That's what Leighton is saying. A sigh escapes me. So, it will take some time, then. Well, you still have some time. Keep trying. With that, Leighton fell silent again, a delighted smile on his face.
ITV audiobook.